There's no place to escape to.
This is the last podcast.
On the left. That's when the cannibalism started.
What was that?
I was doing some research because a listener sent me a bit of information about FDR's final days.
Is that what you call masturbating now?
But apparently FDR at the time, he had suffered from hypertension, like I do. Presidential disease.
Wow, it actually
same level of stress.
The way that you say it sounds like a superpower. Hypertension.
I do feel cool, but it's not like, it's not Tron, because it kind of feels like I'm a guy from Tron, but I'm not, because I'm just, it's just sleeping illness.
You could hang out with Jeff Bridges.
Illness. I could, but he won't answer my letters.
Yeah.
Isn't that weird?
But we can all make our disorders like sound super cool, like bipolar.
Attention deficit hyper disorder.
Whoa, cool. Okay. Yeah.
Why are you always late? Do you stack things weird?
Ooh, that's a hyper disorder you have there, sir. But FDR, so for a while, they thought hypertension, like blood pressure, they thought if you had high blood pressure that it was like healthy.
Yeah, because it meant you were more of a man.
It doesn't that more blood was shooting around in a thicker way. And against America, they're all like, production is excellent.
Bigger, so you're telling me they made a nuclear bomb, but at the same time, they're like, high blood pressure, that guy's going to live forever.
Basically.
All right, fantastic.
But apparently at his death, which was not, you won't let me use the word mistress's house because it was very complicated.
It's much more complicated than a mistress relationship.
Yeah, because it says right here it was his right-hand woman. He could have used a two-legged woman. Someone can help him downstairs.
Right. Wow.
Got him.
You really nailed him.
Nobody's safe.
Yes,
absolutely.
Yeah. Leave Missy LaHand out of this.
Roast mode.
Again, Missy Lafitte is what FDR was doing.
Wow, you've really done it now.
But if you look at his blood pressure, apparently at the very end of his life was 350 over 195.
Wow. I wonder why he was so stressed. Welcome to the last
crazy?
podcast on the left, everyone. Ben hanging out with Henry and Marcus. And Henry, you better reverse this trend of getting your blood pressure down.
Pump it up.
We need you in office.
Oh, yeah, man. I got to. My goal is that by next year, my blood pressure will be so high that the whites of my eyes are going to be crimson.
Oh, that's cool.
Wouldn't it be?
You don't even have to tattoo them.
No. Today's episode's going to be rough.
Yeah. All right. Well, let's get into it. The Manhattan Project, Part 5. It's reading like a horror film.
Yes. Oh, very much so. I mean,
this is Hiroshima. We're here.
We're here. Can you really finally? Hiroshima. What
wonderful.
A good place. As you could tell, as we covered the episode of This Is Our Life from the 1950s, it covers Hiroshima.
This is your life.
This is your life. They definitely cover just what a beautiful morning it was.
Oh, that's not nice.
Now, if you're American, it's almost certain that when or if you were taught about the end of World War II, the dropping of the atomic bomb on Hiroshima and Nagasaki was framed as a necessary evil perpetrated to prevent the deaths of millions of lives, both American and Japanese.
I don't remember it being framed as evil at all.
No, I
remember it being framed as if plumes of liberation went over to the people of Nagasaki.
It's technically a holiday.
Yes. They're like, and then they knelt down and thanked us.
They're like, thank God, we needed to be spanked.
Well, to bolster this argument, atomic apologists often point towards domestic Japanese programs like the Tonorigumi.
If you listen to Dan Carlin's Supernova in the East, he really does talk quite a bit about the fervor within the country and how it's so. From that perspective, you can kind of see like, oh, they were an intense bunch.
They were a very intense bunch.
Absolutely.
Just like everybody else, only more so.
Yes.
Wow.
Dan, call us.
Please call us. Well,
I think he has a rotary phone. I was saying that.
Thing. What do you really do?
We want to get in contact with him, but I think I have to attach a message to a pony and send it out because I think he's in Michigan somewhere.
No. He's got a P.O. box somewhere in Washington State.
Yeah. All right. Well, maybe we don't want to bother him.
Well, Tonorigumi were mandatory groups of 10 to 15 domestic Japanese households that were responsible for ration allocation, government bond distribution, propaganda distribution, and civil defense.
Guys, hear me out. I think I should be in charge of the rations. Two for me, one for you, two for me, one for you. We'll play the 2 for me, 1 for you game.
You're the fattest man in town.
How?
Well, additionally, by the end of the war, these Tonorogumi units had received military training to observe enemy planes and boats. Most frightening to the alarmists, though, was the fact that the Japanese imperial government intended to draft the Tonorogumi as private militias in case of an enemy invasion.
And I think it was probably met with mixed results of some. I do imagine a good chunk of them were like, yeah, can't wait, yeah, I'll kill, I'm fine.
Absolutely. And this does sound intimidating. It's almost frightening when one took into account the tenacity and ferocity of the average Japanese soldier. Of course, propaganda had made the Japanese a terrifying people to the Americans. Put simply, Japan was seen by America as a nation of zealots that were determined to fight to the last man, woman, and child for the glory of the emperor, all because he told them to.
If we only had a cartoon bunny to take down these goddamn Japanese individuals.
We'll get to that here in a second. But here's the thing about the Tonorogumi. Their duties and responsibilities were almost exactly the duties and responsibilities thrust upon the American public during World War II.
It's actually even more so the giant systemic version of pumping out multiple different versions of the Navy and the Air Force and the Army and again and again and again. We didn't mobilize our homes. We turned our entire industrial network into a war-making machine. It almost seems like that's a level of zealotry as well.
Yeah.
What is that constitutional amendment? Is it 2, 3? You can't harbor the soldiers. You don't got to harbor soldiers.
I think it's 3 or 4.
But
yeah,
if you make everyone soldiers, then I guess you're not harboring soldiers anymore.
And that's the reason why eventually that's what Airbnb is trying to do right now, make it illegal for you to even go to an Airbnb because we are all soldiers of light in the army of Christ.
Oh, you're on militarized Airbnb also? It's really fun.
Well, in this context, we're talking more about the people than the industry. For example, America had the Office of Civilian Defense to help with domestic war efforts.
Yeah, that's where we had like girls in the short skirts playing softball, right? And they're washing each other in a brook.
Yeah.
Right? You got the two riveters scissoring.
Yeah, the OCD. Absolutely. Yeah, that's what it's all about. Rationing.
It's International Police Academy with nuclear weapons.
I mean, that's kind of fun in a way.
Yeah, in America, rationing was an everyday part of life, and towns across America ran constant drives to sell war bonds to help with the war effort. And when it came to propaganda, ours ran so deep that Donald Duck was in charge when it came to beating the Nazis, while Bugs Bunny fought the Japanese in a cartoon that had an actual racial slur in the title.
I think that Bugs Bunny...
He should have walked away from that cartoon. First of all, if Bugs Bunny was his so-called American Idol, he would have understood what this would apply to in history, and he would have walked away. So in that case, Bugs Bunny is canceled.
Yeah, I actually think they could have used Elmer against the Nazis.
Except he did dress as a lady, very similar to Harry Styles, uncanceled.
Uncanceled, yeah.
Well, that racist title, that's in addition to some incredibly harsh racial slurs used in the cartoon when Bugs Bunny hands out grenade-filled ice cream bars to Japanese soldiers who are all portrayed as barefoot, subhuman savages. And also, Bugs Bunny weirdly gets laid at the end of the cartoon.
Hey,
interesting.
He's in the army.
You can't eat that.
What?
Grenade ice cream.
I also just imagine a bunch of Japanese men pushing a little rabbit down and fucking it in a field.
Oh, yeah, they would have. It would have been I spit on your grave times 1,000.
Isn't it also weirder, the idea of a little actual rabbit dressed in a human lady's clothes being made love to by POWs from World War II?
And this war has been directed by John Waters.
Now that's a riveting Rosie.
Yes, indeed.
But what scared Americans most about Japan were the militias. It seemed otherworldly to some Americans.
We were invented by
militias. I don't even want to. We're not even going to talk about that.
It's in our fucking Constitution.
We're supposed to have them.
You know, I heard those savages get together with firearms and talk about overthrowing the government. Anyway, what are we doing? Oh, we're going to get together with some firearms and overthrow the government.
This might not be a good episode for July 4th weekend. It's July 4th weekend.
Yes, it is.
This. Yeah.
But really, this is all about cultural differences. The cultural difference between us and the Japanese is that the Japanese formed and ran their Tonorogumi units with complete obedience, which was such a foreign concept for many Americans that it sort of freaked us out. Where the Japanese followed orders, most Americans had to be dragged, kicking and screaming into any effort towards the greater good, and they saw anything to the contrary as un-American. Put another way, an American man in the 1940s might say, yeah, I'll kill as many people as you fucking want. I'll shoot him. I'll blow him up. I'll burn him to death. I'll do whatever the fuck you want. But I'll be goddamn if you're going to tell me that I can only eat 2 potatoes a day instead of 3, because it's my God-given right as a fucking American to eat as many goddamn potatoes as I fucking want to.
Somebody's saying my language.
Yes, they are actually correct. And Marcus, it seems to me as if you call this the greater good. Seems like, what's that on your tongue? A little bit of leather from licking all those boots?
Interesting.
Wow, the greater good, the
his
nuclear
lips are
bombs.
browned by the wax upon the shoe.
I believe we've hit upon a little bit of the old patented Ben Kissel contrarianism on purpose. A little bit of the old misunderstanding something on purpose.
Wow.
Sometimes his politician nature is showing itself.
I've been swift voted.
Wait, I also, it's interesting though, because this is how propaganda serves its purpose.
Yeah.
Because we have alienated these people in our minds. We have now, as an American people, we're saying, oh my God, this pack of relentless maniacs. We're never going to be able to beat these guys. We're going to have to stomp them out until we're going to have to kill every last one of them. When don't you think that maybe some of them felt the same exact way that we felt when they were forced by gun to go and sign up for these various things? They talk about that with the kamikaze community too. Like, yeah, a lot of them felt duty bound, but it was that duty bound that made them go do. They were men of honor that wanted to honor this oath that they took to the army. But a lot of them were not hyper enthusiastic.
Can you have a kamikaze community? Wouldn't they all sort of slowly be like, where's Daryl?
Well, there were the guys.
He had to go kamikaze.
Yeah. Like, there he is right now.
It's about adding new members constantly. It's a big turnover on membership.
High turnover rate.
Yeah.
But no, because they were like, some of them were trained to go and then didn't go. So you had guys that were all ready to go and didn't get to go. And they have on all of the letters, a lot of them are like, gee, wish I didn't have to do this.
Yeah. Oh my God. But
if I don't do this, I go to military jail.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. But yeah, perfect propaganda from cartoons to military to newsreels. Everyone's getting hit.
Yeah, and it goes even further than that. I mean, eventually, most Americans, when it came to rationing and so on and so forth, most Americans fell in line after America brought in a daddy named Leon Henderson. Leon Henderson pissed off people so bad and being very, very strict about rationing that in retaliation, a large number of solid, greater good New Deal programs were repealed and never brought back. If you ever ask, what happened to all that cool New Deal shit?
Yeah.
This. Leon Henderson, he pissed off people by being really hardcore with rationing, pissed off a bunch of people. The Democrats went out of power, and so all of that New Deal shit got repealed in the midst of World War II and the aftermath of World War II.
Marcus, now that you love rationing so much, you'll be happy to know that certain members of our government are going to stop school lunches for free. So there you go. We're going to ration. The kids are going to have to ration a little bit.
You are absolutely misunderstanding it. You are misunderstanding it because
Marcus for prison.
I don't think Marcus
purposefully misunderstanding.
No.
The only thing Marcus likes about prison is the ability to read uninterrupted.
That is, you would actually,
that would the only thing would be nice.
Unfortunately, I have a hard time concentrating when I am in a constant state of terror.
No. You would be in the constant state of loneliness because you'd probably have to be because you're sensitive. You'd probably have to be with all the extra.
But I always feel like kids,
with the Fogels, the Jared Fogels of the world. So you wouldn't have time to read. You'd be alone in a cell.
Okay. That's the thing. That's a problem. Is that people like us? Because I would also probably be isolated immediately because I'd be like, get me out! Get me out! I'll fucking kill myself if I had to go. So they would probably have to put me in isolation, but then who are we spending our time with? Just a guy being like, I made 1,000 angels. You want to see my angel connection?
You better say yes.
Go like, yes, yeah, absolutely. And he's just got his tapestry of cum that he has turned into a spider web. And you have to go like, oh, wow. Oh.
All right. Back at it.
Well, the point is that what Leon Henderson did, it worked without rationing, without putting all the rubber and all the metal and all the scrap metal and all that shit and turning our entire industry into a war machine. Without that, without being forced to do that, we would not have won World War II. We would not have been as effective of a force as we actually were. And after the fact, the so-called greatest generation pretended that they'd all come together for the war effort immediately and without complaint in order to bring back our boys as soon as possible.
But no, Marcus.
They did not fucking do that.
You're going to diss the greatest generation right now?
Yes.
Hold on a second. Yeah, Mr. Brokaw? Mr. Tom Brokaw?
He's fucking out. He fucked up. He didn't do his job. Yeah. I'm coming for Tom Brokaw now.
I'm just saying
we are heated today.
I'm just saying the greatest generation isn't as fucking great as they make themselves out to be.
I like this. I like being hot takes. I like this. I'm fine. I can take the heat.
You know what I'm saying?
I got my fucking Kevlar panties on.
It's straight fucking propaganda that is still in effect today. It's one of the great myths of World War II.
They are dying, Marcus.
Good.
Oh my God.
Get him go.
How many World War II vets are left? 12?
Yeah, and they're the ones.
They don't matter.
Yeah, they were just kids screwing into, literally, putting the one last screw into a jet at this point.
Every World War II vet in my family's fucking dead.
It was my job as an 11-year-old boy to kiss all the pilots before they left.
No, but it's true. It's another myth that we are still dealing with now. You can see the repercussions now of it just seems it's just real difficult to get a entire island nation of individualists together to do something. To have all of America, this massive swath, huge size, all different types of population, and having them all try to be both special stars that each one is their own. You're your own god,
special
your own
little
master,
universe.
special little universe, which I do believe in. But it's really hard to get them all to then agree to help each other. Yeah, because they're naturally against it.
Yes. Thank God a weapon of mass destruction was able to do just that.
Yeah.
Because the key word was mass.
Mass.
Yeah. And I bring up all this propaganda for a reason. Because it was America's sustained propaganda efforts that made both the dropping of the bomb and its later similarly mythical justification possible. In the most basic terms, the government framed the argument as a false dichotomy. If you are against the use of the atomic bomb, then you were for killing Americans. No middle ground.
That's how they do it.
Yeah.
That's what they do.
And for many, this dichotomy only gained strength after the horrors of the atomic bomb became public in 1946. They doubled down. In fact, one poll said that a quarter of Americans wish that we would have dropped more bombs on Japan.
The greatest generation. See, Marcus, there was a lot of people on board.
It's they just wanted to, I don't know. They like the clouds.
They also saw it on TV. They're like, I missed that one. Could we get one with a better footage? Yeah. It was a little grainy.
I mean, my entire point is that you don't need to mythologize. You don't need to mythologize older generations, older times. Humans have been the same forever and always, and we will continue to be the same forever and always. And it's not until we fucking accept that we can truly make change in this world.
Or maybe we're forced to be jammed together by AI. But that sounds like it is truly coming down the pipe, whether we like it or not.
Yes, indeed. You see that robot playing tennis?
Oh, yeah.
Well, I mean, you remember in the immediate aftermath of 9/11, you remember during the worst of the Iraq War, nuke the Middle East became a popular refrain amongst many citizens. At least maybe that was just in Texas. I don't know if you got that in Wisconsin.
I definitely remember killing everyone that may be close to Dan.
I'm going to honestly say I was in 1969 in my mind during those years.
Yeah, okay.
So I wasn't really there for a lot of this
fighting
conversation.
Vietnam
during
Iraq.
I was thankful for Vietnam because of all the groovy tunes that came out of it.
Yeah, man. Yeah.
It would be funny to see with a hat on with a bunch of sticks in it in college. It's Vietnam. We're the Viet Cong.
Yeah, they loved me there.
Yeah, they did.
But while many Americans knew that atomic warfare was quote unquote bad, or at the very least distasteful.
You know
That's
what?
the biggest.
That's my biggest takeaway.
The full scope of what exactly the bomb did to the people of Hiroshima and Nagasaki, it isn't common knowledge. Because it's just too goddamn horrifying for most people to handle. It's sort of like how everybody knows about, the big serial killers, the big three, because you can kind of gloss over the details and it's still a good story. It's the reason why people don't know about the Chicago Rippers, because it's truly just pure horror and they don't want to hear it.
Oh, right. Yeah, they just released the transcript of the Toolbox Killers. The talking about they recorded one of their murders and you see the detail within it, and it is extremely horrific. But it was like when we were going to do an episode on the Toolbox Killers, we went to going to all the research for it. I was like, there's nothing here. Why can't I find anything? There's been no definitive real anything. And so then that thing came out, and you're like, oh, it's because it destroys your soul.
Yeah.
Like reading the content that's happened. Yeah.
I suppose
it makes you half a human for an afternoon.
We will cover that at some point, I guess. Maybe? I don't know. It's fucking disgusting.
Yeah.
Sadly, like the Chicago Rippers is that story.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But to the point of not being able to handle the truth, if the average American truly knew just how awful Hiroshima and Nagasaki really were, then our image of ourselves as the saviors of humanity after World War II, that gets greatly tarnished. And as we know, World War II is pretty much all we have to be proud of when it comes to military operations over the last 80 years, to the point where assholes are still wearing t-shirts to this day that say, America, back-to-back World War champs.
But no one ever says that about like the White Sox, right? Like didn't the White Sox won like 2 World Series like 50 years apart? Like we can't.
They would.
Yeah.
If they did, there would be t-shirts about that.
I'm just saying,
but you don't go back to like, the sports achievements of the 1940s.
Yeah,
People, we aren't really holding on to that anymore.
Yeah, lost 4 roars in a row to villagers with spikes. You don't see that shirt. Where's that?
Yeah, a lot of people taking credit for something they had no part of.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah, you don't go like 4 for 4 South American coups.
I mean, technically, we would be. So we got the 2
I
wars.
do want that shirt. I fucking want that shirt.
I'm gonna
my
say
CIA team, like Team CIA shirt. Yeah.
Dude, yeah, they're working hard right now.
Oh yeah.
But yeah, we want the 2 World War I and World War II. Then Korean, that's just moot. That's neutral. Vietnam, you could say lost, but we'll just say tied.
We lost.
Iraq War I, message sent, so I'm going to give that a victory. Iraq War II, that's going to be...
That was more of a... That's a slow rollout.
That's a slow rollout. And then Afghan... Yeah, we're about 2 We're 2, 1, and 3.
We're 2, 1, and 3 right now. Yeah.
I'd say I would say 1, 2, and 3.
Can I ask, though, as a comedian, can I just ask this in the middle of this before we start? Because obviously we're going to get into some really heavy material here.
Extraordinarily heavy. This is going to be some of the most intense shit we've ever talked about on the show.
And I'm a silly guy. And so, I'm going to try to make jokes, but I do feel like in many ways, I feel like comedians should be treated like medics in the war. Where we should we should be able to wave a little flag that says, I'm a comedian, this is legal, it's legal for me to, I just sometimes, because when I mess up, I get an angry email. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But, because you can still take shots, because, you don't think that a medic at some point, because medics, you're not supposed to shoot them. You don't think a medic every once in a while did shoot a fucking Nazi in the back of the head, right?
Well, yeah, I mean, actually,
sure they did.
Well, once you got to a certain point in the war, the medics, especially in Japan, on the Pacific
That's
front.
gotta be cool for them.
And no, they were absolutely fucking horrified to do it. They did not want to do it at all because they became medics specifically so they wouldn't have to kill people.
That's
yeah.
sad.
I always get in.
What a waste of all these bullets.
I always get into medicine when I don't want to see a bunch of gore.
I mean, we did take down the Germans from the west while the Russians took it from the east. We conquered the Italians. We stormed the beaches at Normandy. We liberated France.
To conquer the Italians.
You'd be surprised.
All you gotta do is show up at 3 p.m.
Oh,
well,
the Italian front was actually because you know why? Real craggy land, real hard to take.
That's where my grandfather was.
Yeah. But right at the end of World War II, when we could have come out clean, we not only committed war crimes, we invented entirely new war crimes when we really didn't have to.
That is the wartime equivalent of someone coming up to me saying, so what are you working on next?
What you working on next? Above and beyond.
That's America. And so without further ado, let's get into those war crimes with our return to the city of Hiroshima. Why are you laughing? They were fucking war crimes.
They're war crimes, Henry. Why are you laughing?
This episode of War Crimes is brought to you by BetterHelp.
Yeah, BetterHelp. Have you had your Nestle this morning? When you're waking up and you want a good Jimmy Dean breakfast sausage, never forget it was brought to you by War Crimes.
And then I saw the mushroom cloud.
Oh, it sounds like you need a sausage, egg, and cheese biscuit from Jimmy Dean.
Rise from your grave.
We're rejoining this story just as the little boy bomb is slowly dropping by parachute on its way to change the course of human history.
And the fact they put that spinny hat on it, I just thought that was rude. Okay, I'm done.
Now, B-29 Superfortress planes, the kind that drop nukes, they weren't an uncommon sight in the skies of Hiroshima. This area was often a rendezvous point for B-29s on their way to firebomb other cities.
Oh. Oh.
But even though Hiroshima hadn't been firebombed yet, the air raid sirens still went off every time a B-29 was spotted, just in case they decided to firebomb this time.
Ugh.
And by the morning of August 6, 1945, since so many cities had been firebombed over Japan over the previous week, the citizens of Hiroshima were fried because they'd been woken up every night for weeks by air raid warnings. But with every warning, the firebombing that had ravaged so many other Japanese cities hadn't come. So the people of Hiroshima began to think that maybe they'd be spared the fate of cities like Tokyo, where over 100,000 people had been burned alive.
Can I just say this? Let me sleep.
Don't wake
me up. Just let me sleep. I'll die in my sleep.
Yeah.
Please don't wake me up. Yeah.
Now, Japanese intelligence had been tracking the movements of the plane carrying the atomic bomb bound for Hiroshima, and they knew enough about recent breakthroughs in nuclear research to surmise that just 3 planes grouped together rather than hundreds out there on a bomb run, that implied there might be a surprise in store.
Oh, yeah, and especially it had been kind of, how do you say, loosely floated that we are working on a brand new super weapon, and it seems that, the United States keeps building these giant Air Force bases right next to us, impromptu and real quick. And then there's all these supply chains that are showing up and a bunch of new soldiers, all these other things. And so at first they're thinking, they're coming now. Yeah. They're going to come do a full-scale invasion, which is why originally they're starting to kind of like, they would hide in the mountains. They would send soldiers up into it and they would bury themselves in these sort of like, kind of what they learned when we talked about Iwo Jima. They would go and hide and then pop out and get you. Yeah. Right? Like once you were past them. But that was not what was coming.
No. But even after intelligence informed the Imperial Japanese Army of the Enola Gay's trajectory.
You know what we forgot? When someone brought up to my attention? Benola Gay.
Oh, please. And there's nothing wrong with that.
I just forgot.
Yeah, give me a fucking dig. I'll bite it off right now.
That's the shirt. That's the merch.
That's
not the shirt.
If someone could please.
B-29 dropping Bud Light lines out of it. Yeah. I just feel like we have to.
I feel like we have to do it now at this point.
Hear me out. Kissel knocked.
Wow.
Honestly, that's your tour. When you do your full stand-up
tour. It's the night of Kissel.
The night of long,
it just means night of Kissel.
The night of long jokes. You know?
Well, even after intelligence said, hey, there's this bomb coming, the generals chose to not only keep their fighters on the ground, they decided to not warn Hiroshima in any way. And really, we don't really know why.
Were they complicit?
I was reading a thing.
Not complicit.
No?
We just don't really know why. Like there was just some arbitrary decision was made.
This is a question. This is one of those many questions of history of like, they did know that something was hyper unusual about this flyover of 3 planes, and they had hours notice. They could have scrambled planes to intercept. They didn't. And this is kind of where I got into my little, Dick Cheney, him laughing, like imagining an American flag draped over a globe. Like, I feel like there was a little bit of that where they might have felt that we can further our position in life if we kind of take this one on the chin, maybe. Like there's something to it, or they just didn't want to acknowledge it. They just straight up were like, we're just going to pretend, we're going to stick our heads in the sand.
I think it was probably, I think most likely at this point, the Japanese Air Force is running pretty low. Yeah. And the B-29s, like another name for the B-29 is the Super Fortress, because these fuckers were intense. They weren't just made to drop bombs. They were made to fly through the air and kill everything in the air around them so they could drop bombs. So if you're sending out, planes, you don't know what the fuck they're there for. You don't know what they're doing. They might just be on a reconnaissance mission. You don't have a whole lot of planes to spare.
But they also refused to believe that the Americans would be able to build a bomb.
Yeah. Additionally, when the Enola Gay came into Hiroshima's sight from the ground, when someone eyeballed it, no air raid signal was given because the men responsible for giving the go-ahead were at breakfast. Now, this isn't quite the dereliction of duty that one might expect. I don't know this for sure, but knowing what I know about American firebomb raids on Japan, morning was probably a time of relief. Once the sun came up, the danger was gone because American firebombings always happened at night.
Because it's harder to fight back, and then when the smoke emerges, all that kind of stuff, it's harder to see the planes in the sky.
Yeah.
Cover of night.
As such, a 14-year-old girl named Yoshioka spotted the Enola Gay, but was forced by protocol to sit there with her finger on the air raid button, waiting for the order to be given.
I see a man, his long, flowing orange hair, its wide cardigan arms spread wide, and it does seem to be several cylinders of green coming from his gut. Oh, what a sight to see.
Come with me, little girl, if you want to live.
the plane garbled.
Come with me, little girl, you want to live.
I smell the smell of scotch, and I see the indents of PlayStation buttons on his thumbs.
I've been playing with Jordan Love, as a matter of fact.
Oh,
a
that's
little better.
nice.
Yeah, doing good. Also, Diablo 4, surprisingly fun.
Are you getting into the
Really
grind?
enjoying it.
I can see
Really
you
enjoying
getting
it.
into the grind. I'm on to Final Fantasy 16 right now.
I'd
It's
like
a
to think for all of
wonderful
the
game.
the victims of Hiroshima that couldn't play Diablo 4.
Thank you, Henry.
Now, the fact that a 14-year-old girl was in such a position tells you a lot about Hiroshima as a city. While the Americans were telling themselves and telling everyone else that Hiroshima was a pure military target and therefore fair game, the reality was far from it.
Yeah.
Even though 23,000 children had mercifully been evacuated outside the city a few months earlier so they might escape a possible firebombing, there were only about 43,000 soldiers there, which is a lot. 43,000 is a bunch. But as far as civilians, 250,000.
Yeah, they
were
just left
in
them all
Hiroshima.
behind. Yeah.
So it was the ratio for military personnel to civilians was quite low.
Also, you look at a country low in resources. What do I know from Civ 6? Is that when cities get bombing and then populations increases across the other cities, the resources for the other cities go down. So you can only spread the people as far as where the food is. So if you don't have any food, it's going to be hard for you, an extra 250,000 people to show up at your city. It's going to be extremely difficult to house and feed them.
Absolutely.
Well, even just those 23,000 children, like the stories that they tell is that they mostly starved out there in the country. They had very little rations. They were lucky to get like a ball of rice a day as far as what they could eat. Like everybody in Japan is fucking starving at this time. Now, by the time 14-year-old Yoshioka finally heard the go-ahead buzzer to push the air raid button, it was 8:13 a.m. This gave the city of Hiroshima 2 minutes to prepare before a little bomb detonated 1,900 feet above the city center.
Hold on. Show me your tits really quick. I can't get hard.
You know, I really fucking wrote that like as a way, like I was really trying to get some sort of like tension.
I was thinking about jerking off right before the bomb.
Like something that like really like,
Show me your
it's
tits
fucking
really
like,
quick.
it's like I worked on it like, you know, for like a couple of hours.
Isn't
Just
that
like,
amazing how you can just boom,
really
gone.
just
All the
fucking
work
all
gone.
just all the work
This
gone.
is going to
Just
be fantastic.
Yeah,
Ben and Henry
yeah,
are going to love not making
crafted.
jokes here.
crafted. It was just
Yeah.
like, you know, really crafted, you know?
I
and
feel
then,
I feel like if I had 2 minutes left, I would just turn to when any woman was next to me and be like, let me just see your boobs.
Yeah, I mean, that's...
Let me just see your boobs.
yeah.
Yeah, sorry, buddy. You asked us to be part of this.
Maybe Mr. Carlin needs a co-host. Maybe I should call
I
him
think
up.
that you
Ben and
guys would
Henry
fucking eviscerate each other.
Ben and Henry were just two normal people, only more so.
You guys would hate each other so fucking
I
much.
think that they'd get along. He'd look at us. I think he might embrace some levity.
Yeah, I think he
I think
he would.
Marcus and him would say, "Really, actually,
Yeah, well,
like a
you
thousand
listen
times
to Dan
together."
Carlin.
Of
You
course.
let Dan Carlin can actually you all
Oh,
he
absolutely.
wants.
No.
Yes.
Dan Carlin is a far superior being to
Even
me.
when it comes to serial killers.
No, not when it comes to serial killers.
So there you go.
We'll go get him drunk. We gotta get him fucking hammered and see what he does.
All right.
Buy
So
him wigs.
okay, do it seriously. We can keep. We'll. But I
Okay.
won't make my joke.
All right.
Okay.
All right. This gave the city of Hiroshima less than 2 minutes to prepare before a little boy detonated 1,900 feet above the city center. Immediately upon the bomb's detonation, a tremendous flash of pure, silent, white energy blasted its way from the epicenter. In less than 1/10 of a second, 30% of Hiroshima's population, 80,000 people, were simply gone. A man sitting on the steps of a bank waiting for it to open was reduced to a dusty black outline on the granite, and the skin on people, even as far away as the suburbs, was darkened several shades, save what parts of their bodies were shielded from the blast. For example, say you held your hand up to your face just by instinct. Everything around the shadow of your hand would have been darkened, but the skin shielded by your hand would stay its normal shade. These markings came to be called the Mask of Hiroshima, and they persisted for months afterward.
So weird.
You just sent like a chill up my spine. The idea of like, because the Mask of Hiroshima does sound like an incredible spa, but not
really,
it's
yeah,
not
that's
good.
true.
But
That's
you
true.
can't. No, that's
So
very bad.
The mask is the shadow outline
of your hand.
Of your hand.
Well, why didn't it erode the hand?
Well, because it does physically
because it's
block the energetic wave.
Oh.
Because this is the power. Remember, this is the power of the sun. They have unlocked the power of the sun. They have basically opened up a sun in the middle of Hiroshima. So what we're talking about here, it's a sunburn, but it's the most intense sunburn you could possibly, a sunburn that will darken your skin for 5 months instantly.
Yeah, cook you. It's cooking you. And then you'll see, because they talked about it in the testing. They said that when they tried to, you couldn't block the light if you wanted to, where it was like, I forget who said it. It was like they saw it and they saw it free, like through the glass. So then it was Richard Feynman.
It was Feynman.
That he saw it. And he said that the only way to describe, it's like things went white. And he's like, I'll never see again. Obviously, he thought he went completely blind, but he said the difference was, instead of it being black, is that it was white, and that it burnt everything out of his mind. He's like, the light was so all encompassing that it felt suffocating and like a nightmare.
Yeah. Well, for those unlucky enough to have spotted the Enola Gay that day and were staring at the sky when the bomb went off, their retinas suffered third-degree burns, rendering the central portion of their visual fields permanently blind. Those who didn't directly see the bomb go off at all, however, had their own terrors. A college girl who had been facing away from the bomb when it detonated said that she felt as though she'd been struck in the back by a large hammer and then was immediately doused with a pot of boiling oil. Now, while some, like the man on the bank steps, were vaporized, most within a half-mile of the blast were reduced to thousands of small piles of smoking black char.
Oh.
These were effectively melted bone, pure charred bone, because all of the viscera in these bodies had been boiled away in a fraction of a second.
And I don't know if you saw, but J. Crew is doing a July 4th sale this weekend. It's actually kind of great. It's like 25% off. So just so you know, just remember, I'll remind you before.
That's really fantastic. Thank you for that reminder.
After the flash, however, came the shockwave. At the speed of 7,200 miles per hour, the shockwave traveled from the center with such force that it shattered windows 10 miles away and was felt at a distance of 37 miles away.
Because within the radius of the blast, a lot of them said they couldn't hear the sound of the explosion.
Yeah, they said it was silent.
It was silent, but you could hear it like 1,000 miles away. They said that fishermen saw it on like up the side of the coast. They just saw this thing go, and they heard the explosion.
It's like moving faster than the speed of sound. So you just saw it explode, but the sound was already past you.
The sound's already passed.
Oh my goodness.
In Hiroshima, however, the shockwave demolished 2/3 of the city's buildings as if they had been cut down by an enormous scythe, shredding the people inside their homes with broken glass or ripping apart their bodies with the flying debris. Finally, though, came the fire. In less than a second, the bomb created a fireball that expanded to 900 feet, and the resulting firestorm eventually destroyed everything within 4.4 miles of ground zero. The Enola Gay, meanwhile, was trying to get as far away from Hiroshima as fast as it possibly could. To avoid getting caught in the blast, pilot Paul Tibbets had to get clear within 43 seconds of the bomb's drop from the bomb bay. As soon as Little Boy was off, Tibbets turned 155 degrees and hit full throttle, which tail gunner Bob Karen, unaware of what they'd just done, he described it as being, quote,
better than the cyclone at Coney Island. There's a lot
it's good to have fun with it.
There's so much within this story that, like, when you then hear it retold by 1940s and 1950s announcers, that you're like, you could really see why we just kind of sanitized it.
Yeah.
But it's been like, and that bomb blast was the most incredible thing we've ever seen. You know what I mean? Like, it's all just hyper positive all the time about all of this shit.
Yeah.
But then also a lot of people just didn't know either, right?
Oh, yeah.
No, this guy had no idea that they dropped in it. He just knew, like, hey, we got this big bomb and we're going to drop. So he had no fucking clue.
All he was being told by a couple of scientists he just met is that we're about to end the war.
Yeah. But once the bomb detonated, the resulting shockwave shook the plane with such force that the crew figured they were under fire from Japanese flak. But at that point, Tibbets circled back around and saw the mushroom cloud created by Little Boy. It had already risen to 30,000 feet in the air and was visible from almost 400 miles away.
And they saw Bob flying out of it.
Bob?
Twin Peaks, season 3.
Ah.
There you go. You got him good.
There you go. Yeah. Now I get it.
I mean, it's a Twin Peaks reference from season 3.
Yeah, man, that was
It's a good
2018.
season. It was a good season.
Yeah. After staring at the mushroom cloud in silence, the crew snapped back to reality and made the predictable World War II statements. The war's over. Holy Moses, what a mess! And so on. That was a direct.
Holy
that was a
Moses.
direct
Holy
quote from, like, I think the bombardier. Holy Moses, what a mess! Tibbets, meanwhile, he was beyond pleased with himself.
I knew it. We get him. I knew we'd do it.
But the co-pilot, Captain Robert Lewis, he seemed to be the only one who truly grasped what had just happened. In his log, he asked a simple and reasonable question. He wrote,
My God, what have we done?
okay, not like that.
Not like David Byrne?
Whatever.
Not
no,
David
no,
Byrne?
it's more like,
My God, what have we done?
that's it. That's what I wanted.
My
Damn
God.
you, Ojima.
Oh, God, what did we do?
Yeah, but that is how David Byrne would say it.
Yeah.
No matter
My
what he
God,
did.
what have we done?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yes, indeed. Log.
He's just getting ready for the holiday. He was so excited.
Really is very
you know,
excited.
like-
First
July
poop
4th.
of the day. First poop of the day.
now that was a bomb.
Yeah, that was a big
an
bomb.
inside joke.
Now, just after the bomb was dropped, one of the nuclear technicians who'd helped assemble the bomb in the air, he was already giving a lecture to the crew on nuclear fission.
And they're like,
You'll see what we have just done here is a thing called nuclear fission. It is not fission like some of the more dumb people would.
and they're just getting their dick sucked by a woman that got shipped in from a factory. You know?
Like, they're in the air because, like, these guys are just like everybody else in the Manhattan Project. They've spent years not being able to tell anybody about this shit. And these guys couldn't even wait to get to the ground to tell someone about what they just accomplished. Likewise, once the Enola Gay landed, the crew was met with cheers from military personnel, scientists, journalists, photographers. Paul Tibbets was given a medal upon exiting the plane.
They had a medal ready for him and waiting.
Back in Hiroshima, however, the nightmare was just beginning. One writer said that after the shockwave, there was a fearful silence all throughout the ruins, which made it appear as if all the people, animals, trees, and vegetation were all dead. In fact, it was so quiet and the devastation was so massive that the writer's thoughts weren't towards a terrible new weapon, but rather the end of the world itself.
Yeah, like, did this happen everywhere?
Yeah. That sentiment, however, was more confined to the areas of the city that weren't immediately burning due to the massive firestorm created by the bomb. Soon, most of the city was actively blazing as blue-green balls of fire drifted throughout the firestorm.
What everyone said, too, is that it was beautiful.
Yeah.
They said they were watching this moment of a living, like a dragon. It looked like a giant living monster, and it was moving and shimmering. One guy said it felt like as the radiation drifted down, is that it felt like you were in it felt like a laser light show.
Yeah.
Where you were just these
crazy.
beautiful cascading like greens and pinks and oranges, and it was like this a mist of it, and they were all like captivated by it.
Mm-hmm. Well, people soon began to flee, but the word flee suggests an urgency, a panic. Wasn't like that. Rather, the people shuffled in silent shock, blankly staring straight ahead. Skin hung from the faces of some, while others vomited as they walked. Most were wearing clothing that, at best, had been shredded by debris, but a lot of them were fully naked. Those who were naked had experienced the full disintegration of their clothing, but on a few, their clothes had left patterns burned on their skin as they dissolved. On the men, you could see marks from their suspenders. But the more disturbing one was the women who were wearing kimonos. Flower designs that were on their kimonos had been burned into their skin, and these pattern burns depended entirely on the color of the clothing. White clothes would repel the light. Dark patterns, though, absorbed it, and those dark patterns caused deeper and deadlier burns.
Please don't bring up the lights and colors thing.
No, this is actually plays right into my,
because I
this
really
actually
don't
plays
want
right
it.
into my color scheme.
I don't want to
See, the
hear
white
anymore.
repelled it because white is everything but
Marcus,
But white.
lie in the love of God.
No, this is true.
We have been talking about this one useless fact that I do believe has been debunked.
Yeah, and it's also scientific fact that this is what happened in Hiroshima. Is scientific
Exactly.
proven.
That's what proves my point.
He's saying he's happy about Hiroshima because
No, I'm not
it
happy
proves
about it.
his color ideas.
No, everyone agrees with me on that. They do. But this is bad news. You definitely
We got to make jokes here.
Yeah.
Well,
You know,
we
we
have
gotta make
to. We
content.
have to.
Yeah.
I would have liked. I hope I'm wearing my favorite shirt.
What's your favorite shirt? Oh, because it's.
Oh,
it's
I
on
tell
your
you what,
body.
though, that
No, it's-
cardigan's gonna
maybe
it's gonna stick to you like it's napalm.
Yeah, it is.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'd wear my little Packers jersey.
I would have already been naked.
Yeah, already.
Soon as the sirens are in that 2 minutes.
Oh, just
Yeah.
start taking it off. Yeah.
But while some tried helping, there was only so much they could do. A doctor
Yeah.
named Michihiko Hachiya, these are difficult names, so bear with me. He ran from his home with his wife before it collapsed, but the doctor fell over as he escaped to the streets. It was not, however, debris that had tripped him up.
Uh-oh.
Rather, the doctor had stumbled over a man's head that had been severed and thrown who knows how far away from its body as a result of the blast.
This is why we just got to let them sniff butts. If
Yeah,
this is
sure,
where if they're getting into
sure.
the sniffing butts,
What?
Sure.
I don't understand.
we'll
what,
talk about. We'll just.
I
let
have
it.
talk
no
about-
idea what you're talking
We
about.
talked about last
The game
week. Kissel
shows,
got
the
into
game
the
shows.
Japanese game shows.
the
Yeah.
game
overly
shows.
into guys sniffing butts.
But-
I don't know if they're
I don't
overly
know
into
how
it. They're
a
into
man
it.
getting his head blown up by a
they-
nuclear blast has
trauma. The man
Trauma.
because it was traumatized.
No,
The
yes.
internalized
So now-
generational trauma. They're allowed to do
Yes.
whatever they need to
But
get
sniffing.
Yeah, anything that allows them to smile.
So this is about no judgment.
yes,
This is about no judgment.
no judgment zone.
No
Absolutely.
judgment zone. Okay, all right.
All right. So this guy's tripping over human skeletons. What a fucking nightmare.
Human heads.
Human heads. Great.
After recovering from that horror, the doctor looked around to see people with skin blackened by burns, bald from head to toe because the thermal flash had disintegrated their hair. Dr. Hachiya said that even though these people were up and walking, their burns were so severe and their skin so black that he couldn't tell whether he was looking at these people from the front or the back.
Wow. That is so freaking creepy.
Yes.
These walking ghosts, as the doctor called them, had been created by the twofold power of the atomic bomb. See, while the thermal flash had instantly blistered, burned, and loosened their skin, the following shockwave had torn that blistered skin loose, but had not ripped it from their bodies altogether. As such, the doctor saw a young girl who had been facing away from the blast, who was walking with the skin from her back hanging down from her hips, while the skin on her hands was hanging loose as if they were rubber gloves. Now, most people tried saving only relatives and close friends on that first day because it was all they could handle, but most were too overwhelmed and shocked to pay any attention to the people screaming from underneath the rubble and wreckage.
Oh, but that was also for the sloughing fans. You have to remember
that was for the
that's fan
sloughing
service
fans,
for fan
yes.
service,
Yes.
Yeah. Oh my God. I don't even know what you would rather be. Stuck under some rubble or walking like that. I mean,
I'd be the first wave. Again, sleeping vaporized. That would be great.
yeah.
Oh, yeah. From one recollection, a man said that his father had come across a stranger trapped by a large log that had fallen on her leg. The father shouted for help to lift the log up, but no one came. He started screaming, "Are you not Japanese? Will you not come help?" No one helped. Everyone was in shock. So after losing patience, the father found a rusty saw and cut off the woman's leg and rescued her himself, carried her away.
Woo.
But of course, that was in the section of the city that wasn't actively on fire. For much of the city of Hiroshima, the fire was inescapable on land, so people walked into one of Hiroshima's 7 rivers to get away both from the fire and to find relief for their flash burns. Very few of those people, however, survived. As one witness put it, watching these people walk into the river was like watching a parade of ghosts being swept away like garbage.
Good Lord.
Well, they are not garbage.
No, but it's just, oh, God.
That is, you could probably see their skin would probably then get off of the body.
Yeah, the skin.
Oh, yes.
Yeah, the
Yes.
water brings the skin off real fast. Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
All right.
Yeah.
I feel like we're in a Tom Waits song.
I know. I don't like it.
This is more.
I do like Tom Waits.
I think this is more Nick Cave territory. Yeah.
Yeah, those are musicians. I don't want to be any part of their lyrics, but I do like to listen to them.
I will say before we get to the new sidebar, have you seen Nick Cave enjoying Bruce Springsteen?
No.
You should look it up.
I will.
Sorry, Marcus, but Nick Cave's a huge Bruce Springsteen.
No, we need
fan.
that.
You
We
watched
need
him
that.
watch that Scarecrow man dance like a 40-year-old dad to Glory Days.
Okay.
Is one of the most enlightening things you could see because it's him as a ghoul. It's full Nick Cave. He's going, Glory Days. Like he's just him dancing along, loving his life.
Nick Cave's his own man. If his love of Bruce Springsteen is what produced such wonderful songs as Henry Lee
It
and the
didn't.
Ballad of Mulhaven.
Absolutely not. No. I think he was just on camera
Oh.
and knows Bruce Springsteen personally as a friend.
Oh, I'd dance if I saw Bruce.
He's great.
Yeah, of course.
Well, those who did survive swimming in the river would have to push away dead bodies with their bare hands like so much driftwood.
See, that inspired Nick Cave.
yeah,
That may have.
that's
Yes,
actually very
That
Nick
may
Cave
have,
type image.
Yeah.
Those people, however, were the ones who still had the presence of mind to make the connection that a river would be the safest place in a firestorm. Many instead wandered aimlessly, trapped in an unspeakably painful horror show. One schoolgirl remembered seeing a man without feet walking on his ankles, while another saw a man whose eyes were swollen 2 inches out from the sockets, and this unrecognizable, unfortunate soul horrified the witness by calling her by her name.
Julia? From gym class?
Ned Ryerson. Oh my God, that is so fucking horrifying.
Yeah, dude. It's not good.
No, it ain't good. It ain't good.
Now, this man was only one of thousands who had begun to swell after the blast. Faces were especially susceptible, sometimes swelling so large that it was impossible to tell where the eyes and mouths were. As one woman horrifyingly put it, you can't imagine how big a human body can swell up.
Can I make a joke about fat Chris Christie?
I
Can I
feel
do
like
that?
you just
Please, am I
asked-
allowed to make a joke now?
Please do.
Yeah, I've seen someone fucking blow up like that.
Yeah, Chris Christie
Chris
must
Christie.
have been attacked by an atomic bomb.
Yeah, you ever seen John Panette?
He's dead.
R.I.P.
And he lost weight before he died.
He did.
Mm.
Yeah.
Now, I think it's important to mention.
Who else is big and an asshole?
Oh.
Name insert. You all know someone who's a big asshole in your home lives.
You just put it in there.
You like Gary from electronics. Yeah.
Put that person in there. Create a punchline around that person would make sense. Attached. They must have been at Hiroshima.
Right.
There's your joke.
Now, I think it's important to mention that this is only the first few hours after the bombs fell, and that all of these people that I've mentioned, they're all still alive.
Yeah, man. You'd be surprised. That was the other thing after the fact where they thought, we'll get into the aftermath. I don't want to spoil it. We'll get into the aftermath.
Yeah, next episode.
Yeah, we're going to get into the
okay.
aftermath, but you're going to find out, like, they were kind of surprised that they all didn't die.
Yeah, I
Because
would
they
be
were all-
pretty surprised.
We were fed this line that it was just going to vaporize them.
Yeah.
Right? Like,
Yeah.
this is that it's clean. Boom. Yes, there's going to be radiation fallout, but we made sure that there was measures to control all these aspects and stuff. But no, they thought that everyone would be dead. And so when they showed up and they're like, oh, people lived. That was when the actual kind of cover up, that's kind of where the war crimes truly come in. Because they thought that, like, they just thought it would be empty.
Yeah.
They
Yeah.
thought it would be a city of rubble.
No, this is Clive Barker. That's what it reminds me of. Clive Barker, very Hellraiser-esque.
And things only got worse from there.
Ah, well, now, there you go.
Rise from your grave.
About an hour or two after the bomb fell, it began to rain in Hiroshima. But while this may seem like a relief, the fires had seeded the clouds above the city with ash, so the rain fell as a blackened mixture of ash and radioactive fallout in abnormally large drops.
I don't know if what these guys are complaining about. Free chemo is incredible because
that's true.
it's so expensive.
What a day to be a weatherman.
Now that the victims were covered in black sludge, the walking ghosts of Hiroshima took on a new level of horror. From the recollection of one man, he saw a woman with her jaw missing and her tongue hanging out of her mouth, wandering north and trying to call for help in the black rain.
Well, I just can't. I don't even think you don't even have to say that you need help at that point, because we all know.
By the time this,
we all actually would know
I just
that.
think America needs to know, honestly, you can be relieved because we won't even get to this in the Oppenheimer movie. By the time all this is happening in the Oppenheimer movie timeline, you're watching Barbie.
You're already watching
Barbie.
You're already watching
Talking about melting like wax.
Yeah.
Yes, indeed. It's supposed to be funny. Margot Robbie.
It'd be
The
kind of
Barbie.
cool, though, if they did at the end of the Barbie movie, just drop the Nagasaki bomb. That's like you drop the second bomb at the end of that and kill all of them. And then the last 5 minutes of that is Margot Robbie walking around with her face melting and all that. That would be cool.
They had that,
but they're not risky filmmakers like I would be.
No, they had the Hiroshima playset. I'm surprised they didn't include that.
Yeah.
Not probably not going to be any.
It's not selling well.
No, I don't. No, they might cut out when Barbie got a little bit more diversity. That was nice.
I don't even understand. I don't understand.
Barbie was
comedy's a numbers game.
It's a numbers game. I mean,
if
he's
Barbie was
trying.
real, she wouldn't even be able to stand up.
Yeah.
She's not an ideal
No,
Barbie
we know.
type, but she's a doll. So I'm also not a Ninja Turtle. I like to play with those.
Well, soon
He's not a Ninja Turtle.
he's not a Ninja Turtle.
I am not.
Well, soon, most of the survivors became covered in this almost tar-like rain, and those without any real presence of mind left didn't bother or didn't know that they should wash it off. In one terrifying example, a woman named Keiko, who was a small girl during the bombing, said that she and her 4 sisters had been left alone at home on August 6th.
I'm scared of you.
Their mother...
Marcus is scary.
Their mother had been out running errands when the bomb hit, so the 5 girls spent the next 24 hours huddled together in fear. Suddenly, a black creature crawling on all 4s charged into the house, making terrible noises. The thing, assumed by the girls to be a dying dog, soon collapsed and died. But upon further inspection, these girls found that the blackened creature had in fact been their own mother, who had instinctively crawled back to her home to die.
Julie from gym class?
Wow, Ned Ryerson?
Jesus fucking Christ.
Yeah,
This is the
I
only
mean-
way we can come.
I don't know how to do it. I mean, it's like you're sitting there and then all of a sudden the doors open and you're like, hey, look at that. And then,
Here's some nice news. Did you know that halfway through the current Japanese Nippon professional baseball season, the Hiroshima Toyo Carp, which is real, they're only 1.5 games out of first place.
isn't that something? Well, good
So they're
for
doing
them.
fine. Yeah, they're coming back.
Bull Durham. That's something to do with it.
Meanwhile, the few people that were relatively uninjured spent the next few days trying to save others, although most were too far gone to save.
Yeah.
One who tried anyway was the Reverend Kiyoshi Tanemoto, who tried ferrying people across a river away from the raging fires. Floating down a river that night, Reverend Tanemoto came across a group of about 20 people crying for help from the water. They were too weak to lift themselves up into the boat, but when the Reverend reached out to take a woman's hand, her skin slipped off in huge glove-like pieces. After taking a moment to himself to briefly process one of the worst things a human being can see.
It's bad. Yeah.
Your
it's
brain
pretty
is
bad.
just like, we're going to note that.
All right.
Yeah, noted.
Bookmark.
Reverend Tanemoto lowered himself into the water to gently lift every person into the boat, all while their skin and flesh, yes, sloughed off in red and yellow chunks.
He said it.
There you go.
Wow, he said it. Wow,
Wasn't that
fun.
nice?
Yeah.
Whoa, make merch.
I mean, this guy is a real hero, though, honestly.
he is. He's an extreme hero, yes.
Now,
Yes.
well, once they were all in the boat, the Reverend had to remind himself over and over again that these were, in fact, human beings being ferried, because they did not in any way resemble people in sight or smell.
And this guy is a fucking baller in and of himself, because what I find interesting, I read a little bit about him, that he was educated in America. He went to American, I guess, with some theological school in America in Atlanta, Georgia. He was dressed in American style often, and he could speak perfect English. And so a lot of people thought he was a spy. So there was so the people he saved were also a group of people that had been calling him and making his life hell in Hiroshima this whole time, dogging him, telling him that he's a spy for America, and he's just like, no, we all went to school there. Like, a lot of people went to school in America and came back to Japan. And so it was just wild to think that he went. He had a crazy story.
Yeah.
It was a war for everyone, so I'm sure speaking English wasn't seen as like cool in Japan at the time.
And Hiroshima also historically was not kind to Christians. At one point, I think in like the late 18th century, a bunch of Christian missionaries were crucified. I think like 25 were crucified within the city limits by the emperor at the time.
And with the bombings of Hiroshima and Nagasaki, this actually just came, I saw this today, it killed something like 66% of the Christian population in Japan.
Wow.
Those two bombs, like, basically wiped out Christianity.
Interesting. That's very interesting.
It's nuts. Now, Reverend Tanimoto became a minor celebrity in America after the publication of a book about the aftermath of Hiroshima by John Hershey that we'll discuss further in the next episode. Reverend Tanimoto was one of 6 survivors to tell their tale in detail, and he therefore became the human face of Hiroshima for many Americans, mostly because he spoke English. 10 years after Hiroshima, the Reverend traveled to America with a group of 25 girls dubbed the Hiroshima Maidens, so named because they'd all been schoolgirls seriously disfigured by the thermal flash of the atomic bomb.
Oh, damn, now they'd just be on the VMAs or something. You know what I mean?
They'd have a TLC show.
They would have a TLC
They'd
show.
definitely have an Instagram where they danced and were. There would be a lot of that. Yeah,
and it would
maybe.
It would be interesting.
I mean, if you have the same Instagram algorithm as I do, they'd definitely be on Instagram dancing around.
As you guys know, my current Instagram is rating Pizza Hut pizzas.
No, it's true. I just saw Kissel looking like he was reading his stocks, like his stocks feedback, and then it was just a man making a Pizza Hut pizza, and he's like, can't even believe that this is Pizza Hut pizza. Like, he was
he was showing the Pizza Hut pizza, and I said, "Oh, that looks good." But then he actually demonized the Pizza Hut pizza because he said it's too much crust.
And then Rob, who's new in the studio, just moved here from New York. I'm sorry, this is your first episode, but he's back, and he said immediately, "Too much bread." We all said too much bread.
But it's full of cheese, so it's actually cheesy bread.
Stuffed breading, stuffed crust. I don't even want not really pizza.
To be honest with you, to be frank, the idea of cheesy bread doesn't even turn me on right now. I don't want to see anything peeling. I don't want to. I don't want melted cheese anywhere near me right now.
Gotcha.
Today, you know what I'm doing? Cold sandwiches.
Cold sandwiches
today.
That's good.
Yes.
Well, the Hiroshima Maidens were seeking reconstructive surgeries to fix such conditions as hands that had permanently reverted to bent claws because of the burns. All their fingers had fused together, and they had facial scarring so extensive that it was considered too extreme to be seen on television at the time. And I bring up television for a point.
Now, listen, ladies. I hear your cries, honestly, and I'm with you. And I'm feeling you. You know, I'm having trouble looking at you, but I'm with you, right? We want to fix you up. The thing is, faces, hands, real difficult. We get you all a couple of double Ds. Right?
You're going to go with breast implants.
What we do is
you think that these women need breast implants?
I think we take each one. Listen, now this might be some people. I just might be a CEO of a television network.
Yeah,
it does sound honestly.
Maybe just a big Hollywood plastic surgeon.
Maybe that's just
not that far off of Extreme Makeover Human Edition, which lasted for 2 or 3 seasons.
The Ugly Duckling. I remember that show.
Was it called the Ugly Duckling?
There was a British version was called Ugly Duckling.
Oh my goodness!
Well, if you're wondering why I mentioned television specifically, it's because Reverend Tanimoto, upon his arrival in America, was a guest on an episode of a television show called This Is Your Life.
Yes.
If you've never heard of it, and why would you?
Man.
This Is Your Life was a show where regular people were surprised on live television without warning by a retrospective of their life as told by colleagues, relatives, and friends.
And it would be kind of across the board. You know what I mean? They had I want to say they had Helen Keller. And they mostly had her feel textures.
There was a bunch of celebrities on this.
They'd have that. They'd also have regular people too.
I mean, I don't remember it, but I've seen it on YouTube.
I remember the last living Civil War guy. You know what I mean? They had a couple of those guys, and they show up and be like, and this is the slave you beat. You know what I mean? And they was like, whoa, you know what I mean? Like that, something like that. Yeah. But this one was a real gotcha one.
Yeah, this was an extreme gotcha.
And this isn't the one where they had to guess which the ones they were, right? There wasn't 3, just one person.
It's one person.
That is the Groucho Marx show. I forget what the fuck it was called.
You Bet Your Life?
You Bet Your Life.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. No, this is the one where they just shove a dude or a woman into a television station, say,
Right.
hey, you're on television now, and a bunch of people are going to tell you about your life. And they did this to Reverend Tanemoto 10 years after Hiroshima.
That sucks. I'd be like, I want to forget your life. Just give me a bunch of other people that pretend that they knew me, but it was a much different story.
It's just what they really thought they had something here.
Yeah. And after hearing from various people, such as 2 Hiroshima maidens, who, of course, had to be hidden behind a screen so as to not offend the American audience.
It's so much creepier.
It
show
is.
people what's happening.
Yeah.
But they didn't want to.
It's also look at what we
Look
did.
what we did.
Yeah. Finally, the producers brought out a guest that was, at best, in bad taste, and at worst, extraordinarily ghoulish.
Because they prep the whole beginning of this it's the character from Ren and Stimpy, the broadcaster character. It is that guy. He was like, hey there, ladies and gentlemen, brought to you. Oh, no, you might see that little name right now. That is our advertiser, Mr. Tanimoto. Yes, you might not know. But we have a special guest here today. So first of all, I want to know, what was Hiroshima like the day we dropped the bomb? And he makes him go through the day. Meanwhile, the man is like, he's just trying to say, matter-of-factly, but basically also like, it's harrowing. It's him describing the morning of the bomb dropping and what his day was like, what he used to be like, what his life was like.
Well, they used to do ingrained marketing into the show.
Oh, that's what it was.
So then he's just got to like look to camera and be like, Clorox.
Yeah.
Like, I don't know if I want to hear about Clorox right now. I think they were responsible for half this.
Yeah, and so they had person after person come up, and then finally you saw the silhouette of a man behind a curtain who's reading something off a piece of paper, and you hear him say,
My God, what have I done?
it's Captain Robert Lewis, co-pilot of the Enola Gay.
Brings him on
They
live camera.
brought him out
This is worse
completely by surprise to shake Reverend Tanemoto's hand and tell the Reverend what his experience was when he dropped the bomb.
I
This
got to
is
tell you, we
worse
were
than-
so scared up there because a lot of these planes didn't have seatbelts.
That is scary. This is fucking Hanukkah with the Klan on Springer.
It is.
This is horrible.
The only
What
way
was
to
his
describe-
reaction?
So I watched it. We
Yeah.
went and watched it.
Yeah.
The look on his face, because it's very similar to, I will put it that the pilot, when he was there, he was like rubbing the back of his head, and he looked extraordinarily not happy to be there as well.
Haunted would be the word.
Yes.
Booked the show.
The State Department. Literally, the host says, thank you, all the help to the State Department making this all possible.
Yeah.
And then they came, he looked very upset, very like mournful, but the look on Tanemoto's face, the only way to describe is that he looked like he was seeing a ghost.
Yeah.
Oh
Like he
my
was
gosh.
wide-eyed, like,
I'd be fucking-
who is this man?
Yeah.
This man who killed everyone I know. Like, I know he was the end. He was just
He's
the
a cog
end
in
of
the
He was
machine.
the end of the
Yeah.
machine.
Still, he was in the plane. I mean, it was like he was looking at a demon,
Yes.
at an Oni. Like, it was pure abject terror.
It looked like he just, again, awkward, like the most awkward thing I have ever seen.
Yeah.
And I want to hear what you're going to like here, sir. This is actually an autographed copy of a book I wrote about dropping the bomb.
Yeah, that is.
There you go.
Wait, that was before those guys made one. He was just, he looked extremely fucked up, though.
Yeah, it sounds like an absolutely dreadful thing. But to be honest, to the producer's credit, fascinating. We're talking about it.
Oh,
I mean, it was good.
2023.
But it also shows you that American television has always been ghoulish.
It's always
TV,
been like this.
Always.
Yes, always.
Now, as horrendous as the Reverend Tanemoto's experiences were both in Hiroshima and on television, they paled in comparison to what was experienced by those who staffed the remaining hospitals in the city. Out of 150 doctors in Hiroshima, 65 were killed in the initial blast instantly. Out of 1,780 nurses, 1,654 were dead or too badly injured to work. The largest hospital that wasn't completely destroyed was the Red Cross. And while 6 out of their 30 doctors were able to somewhat work with injuries, there was only one doctor who came out of the initial blast unscathed. That man was Terafumi Sasaki, one doctor for the entire city of Hiroshima.
Where was he?
He was in the hospital.
Yeah.
When the bomb detonated, he was just one step beyond an open window. He was carrying a blood sample from a patient who had come into the hospital freaked out because he thought he had syphilis.
Well, that's the least of your worries now.
It just happened. He just happened to be in just the right spot in the building. After the blast ripped through Dr. Sasaki's hospital, Blood was everywhere. Medical instruments were all over the place. Broken glass covered the floors. A lot of the patients died when the ceiling fans in their rooms fell and crushed them in their beds.
It's like out of a fuck. That's a horror movie.
Yeah, it is.
Yeah. Dr. Sasaki, meanwhile, had only lost his glasses, but quickly replaced them with a pair that was far below his prescription from a critically injured nurse.
God, this is just all of going to be my new anxiety dream.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, not being able
to see everybody's bleeding and dying. The city's falling apart.
And only you can save them.
I'm the only person who know how veins work.
Yeah. But then you get to wake up next to your two dogs.
Yeah, that's nice.
Isn't that nice? You fucking American bitch.
I am lucky.
You get to wake up to your two dogs.
Comedians should be free.
Dr. Sasaki then began what was a near uninterrupted 3-day shift trying to help the people of Hiroshima. Now, at first, Dr. Sasaki thought that the hospital had been the sole target of a bomb, so he got to work bandaging the thousands of injured people inside the hospital. But soon, thousands more began wandering through the doors, and before long, the injured and dying citizens filled every hallway, laboratory, staircase, driveway, courtyard. Eventually, a veritable sea of people filled the surrounding blocks of the hospital, all of whom were clinging to the faint hope that someone would come out to help.
And to think that there was just hours before they were running from Godzilla. That was the only thing that
Godzilla was many years later. Godzilla was a result of the atomic bomb. I can't believe you would make such a stupid, simple mistake.
It really is actually quite pathetic, the mistake that you made. Everybody knows that Godzilla, along with King Kong, were probably babies at this time. In no way would they even be there.
I've been thoroughly
maybe
dressed
Godzilla
down
could have said,
by my co-hosts, and I will somehow continue.
Yes.
Well, to put it into perspective, it's estimated that 10,000 survivors made their way to Dr. Sasaki's hospital, while only 600 beds were available. And remember, one doctor. Faced with the increasing enormity of his task, Dr. Sasaki decided that the only thing he could truly do was to keep people from bleeding to death. He became what he described as an automation of a doctor, wiping, dabbing, bandaging, wiping, dabbing, bandaging, over and over again for 3 days straight. Making things worse, the floors were covered in blood, vomit, sloughed off skin.
Yeah, it would make it worse.
And it would totally makes it worse. And
eventually decompositional fluids.
Yeah, it's so much worse that way.
Remember, it's August, and it was a particularly hot August, and people were dying in the hospital by the thousands. There was nowhere to take these bodies, and more importantly, there was no one to carry them off. So the dead decomposed and liquefied next to the living. By the end of it, Dr. Sasaki only took 1 hour of sleep during those first 3 days, and once he was finally forced to go home, he slept for 17 hours straight.
But you guys will all be happy to know Winston Churchill did not miss one 3 p.m. nap.
He didn't.
I know that
he needs to be rested. I remember that from the museum.
Super rested. Yeah, it was a nice nap room, too.
Oh, it was really nice.
Do you think that there's, you know what's going to happen now is that there's going to definitely be some commercial where they're going to go through the hospital fields of Hiroshima, and then you're going to see one guy like half melting and stuff, and he's just like hungry. You're going to give him a
you're not you when you're hungry.
And then he's going to turn into Tom Papa or something. He's going to turn into some like funny guy.
That's funny. Who's that shirtless guy?
Tom
Bert Kreischer.
Maybe he could be in it.
Bert Kreischer should go help people in Hiroshima.
That would be nice. That would be nice.
But he was German descent.
Well, that's the thing too, is that, if he's in Hiroshima, he's got a reason why he's not wearing a shirt, because it got blown off.
Hey, man, don't even worry about me. I'm Gen X's crazy guy.
It writes itself, Henry.
It does write itself. There you go.
God, help us all.
It's also, I suppose you could do a marketing for nurses' shoes. The non-stick or the non-slip ones. Non-slip ones there.
Glenn Borland.
Yeah, what about that? What a stupid idea that was, huh?
Now, this is horror on a never-before-seen scale. This
Truly.
is brand new to the
planet.
Billions and billions and billions of years. Maybe the dinosaurs saw something.
I mean, technically, the concentration camps were this but long.
But on this scale with the
In one day?
in one day, yeah.
See,
just different.
that's how America does it. We get it done like
Yeah.
that. One go.
yeah.
Yeah,
I
we don't
remember that with our last
Yeah.
20-year war. We went in, we went out.
Yeah.
Well, we had, oh,
Yeah.
God.
Yeah, we don't really need to get into like what's worse, the bombing of
no,
Hiroshima.
no,
or, yeah. We don't really need to get into that.
no.
I'm just saying is that humanity had never seen this.
I do think that's the spinning wheel from hell, though. You get transported to like Holocaust, Hiroshima, Nagasaki,
Yeah.
having to watch Steve Harvey's final set. I don't know what it is, but it does seem like just horrible.
Got him.
There we go.
Nobody's safe.
I was trying
Yeah.
to come up with a little bit of a joke there.
Yeah. And
Yeah.
he landed on Steve Harvey.
He did.
I did. Technically, it was a joke.
It's in there.
Yeah.
Now, one would think that the people in charge would at least have the presence of mind to treat the destruction of a city using the hellish power of the sun with some solemnity. At the very least, even if they are vaporized instantly, you still just killed 80,000 people. At the very least, you'd think they could keep their jubilation restrained because, after all, they believe that the war is now over. A very long 4-year war is over. Instead, when Truman told the crew of the ship taking him back to America after the Potsdam Conference that the atomic bomb had destroyed the city of Hiroshima, he was met with a resounding cheer and thunderous applause.
Again, far away from it, thousands of miles away from it. You have been watching all of these American ingenuity, talking about how we've spent this long to end this war, and that you've been fed this line that this is the way to do it. This is actually the humane way to do it. You don't really know. And then on Truman's part, I will vaguely say, like, he made a ghoulish decision, but he was still not happy. And at least there's that. Like, he at least it was very complicated for him.
Yes, it was.
I guarantee you they did the hip, hip, hooray.
Oh,
Yeah.
Hip, hip,
definitely.
hooray.
Because
That's
we
just how
won. We knew in that moment that we had won the war, but
But Henry, what did we win?
it's not good for nothing, that's for certain.
Yeah. Well, one thing that he could have done is that, the thing is that he set the tone. Truman set the tone for everybody else, and the press set the tone, and the tone was one of jubilation.
Yeah.
Right.
And that, of course, informed the way that America thought of the atomic bomb from then on.
Mm-hmm.
The next day, the White House released a press statement to the world revealing that we dropped the biggest bomb in history on the city of Hiroshima, although the statement made a point to call Hiroshima a quote-unquote important army base. They didn't call it a city.
No.
Furthermore, the onus for the dropping of the bomb was placed on Japan for bombing Pearl Harbor.
Yep.
Because, as I said in the first episode, America tends to excel at the act of overcorrecting, then telling the civilians they kill in the process that you made us do this.
Yeah, it's like that stupid slap competition, but with like a little person who slaps like freaking Andre the Giant or something.
Yeah, because
And then
that
he's
was
like,
the thing.
Andre's like, I'm going to have to slap you back. And it's like one is bigger than the other.
Yeah,
We
you
also-
don't have to slap him back, Andre.
Unslap you do.
Unslap you do. Yeah,
Literally, the
unslap
name
you
of the
do.
show is Slap.
Yeah,
It's
we also
fucking
for a
the
fact
dumbest
that-
goddamn thing of all time.
But we know that Pearl Harbor happened because, FDR got the call that it was going to happen right before he was doing his hurdles practice.
Oh, you
And
want
that was actually, and that's
interestingly
why it
enough-
went out of his mind. So it's like, he was like, ugh. And then afterwards, it was like, oh, yeah, that's right. I can walk.
It's also so stupid. Oh, another FDR joke. Even though we're with Harry Truman now.
Yeah, but still, he's not letting it go.
No, he's not letting it go. He's not letting it go.
It's a running theme.
Yes, indeed. And Harry
Yeah.
Truman, of course, with the hurdles, he went under them because he's a stupid person.
Yeah.
Nobody's safe.
Nobody is safe. Got you, Truman. I wish Dewey would have won.
Hey, and that's not to say that Pearl Harbor wasn't bad. Of course it was
Yeah, of
bad.
course.
A lot
All
of
these things are bad.
all
None
these
of it-
things
we
are
are
bad.
in a world of sloughing. Everything is bad.
yeah. But that's the thing is that you don't need to overcorrect and destroy two cities and murder hundreds of thousands of innocent civilians as revenge.
Hi,
and you
hello,
don't need to
welcome.
say you did this to yourself.
Hi, hello, welcome to the International House of Sloughing. Do you want a bowl? You want ears or you want eyeball gunk?
Man, I just really wish that you guys had ham steak.
Yeah, we do, but it's baby.
So bad. All right.
Come on.
There you go.
I white flag.
Well, the statement then went on to reveal that this was indeed an atomic bomb and that we'd built it only because the Germans had been working on an atomic bomb of their own.
Sure.
We, however, had won the so-called Battle of the Laboratories, just as we'd won battles on land, air, and sea. Finally, the statement ended with a direct plea to the leadership in Japan. Either accept the unconditional surrender terms outlined in the Potsdam Declaration, or expect a rain of ruin from the air the like of which has never been seen on this earth.
Is there a number 3?
Yeah, is there another freaking option?
Yeah, there was. There was a number 3, a number 4, all the way up till probably number 7. There were a lot of different fucking options.
Yeah, we said that we definitely had, because then, we're following up immediately. And at this point, we're telling them, now that we know that one works, we can make 7 of these a day.
Yeah. Now, even a day later, the Japanese government wasn't entirely in agreement that an atomic bomb had in fact been dropped on Hiroshima. From what they thought, the Americans, they're fucking crazy, but they're not crazy enough to bring such an unstable weapon across the Pacific.
They would never do that.
They'd never do that.
And they would never bring it on a boat that would then crash, and then everybody in that boat would then be fucking raped to death or fucking eaten by sharks.
U.S. Indianapolis.
Yeah.
USS Indianapolis.
But that's the thing, is that they were only partly right on that, because we didn't fully assemble the bomb until right before the bomb bay doors opened.
Yeah. We brought the uranium and the plutonium across the water.
Right.
Showing further arrogance, Japan refused to acknowledge that America was advanced enough to actually build an atomic bomb, which again shows that even at the end of the fucking war, the Japanese government still completely misunderstood America. They misunderstood our ingenuity, our capacity for vengeance, our near unlimited resources. They just didn't fucking get it.
Hey, man, British local yokels can do a lot when they're left to their own devices.
But I also feel they believed in the power of the empire.
Yeah.
Again, supernova in the East really shows a little bit more about that mentality.
Yeah.
That they really did believe that that no one could beat them.
Yeah, but at this point,
so this can't be real, because that would mean that they have unequivocally squashed us.
I totally understand.
Yes.
It's a shock.
But
it's a shock.
But at this point, within the Japanese government, there is a huge tug of war going on between the people who do believe that and the reasonable human beings who are
like, we must figure this shit out right now.
Yeah, that are just saying like, hey, we were beat 6 months ago. We need to fucking do this shit. Like that you need to enter the real world. The emperor is not a god.
Yeah.
And that's why here on MTV's Real World, we've brought together a series of different people from
Let 'em go.
Japan,
I want to see
Nagasaki, and Hiroshima, and we brought the troops that dropped the bomb. When 7 strangers live in a house, and 3 of those strangers
Let's start getting real.
Yeah.
Are they able to make a silkscreen t-shirt business work on Venice Beach? We'll figure it out.
You killed my family. Yeah.
You guys all, okay, welcome to the house. You guys got all you a job at the International House of Sloughing.
I thought one of the grossest things that Tom did was eat his peanut butter with his fingers, because his fingers are all burnt. And then this
Jesus fucking Christ.
Well,
Wave a white flag. Wait the comedian
I'm
flag.
Canadian.
Wait.
Today, that's the nice thing about wearing many hats.
See?
Yeah, put that one on.
Rise from your grave.
But after sending out their Navy and Army to investigate the ruins of Hiroshima, there was no doubt whatsoever that the United States had perfected the atomic bomb and had used it on the people of Japan. They could not argue it.
And we haven't even perfected it then yet.
And
now it's fucking.
And so did the modern age begin.
Yes.
The very next day, that conclusion was confirmed worldwide when the atomic bomb, and by extension, the Manhattan Project, was announced to the world on no less than the front page of the New York Times. The headline read,
First atomic bomb dropped on Japan. Missile is equal to 20,000 tons of TNT. Truman warns foe of reign of ruin.
Wow,
Yeah.
There you go. Good unbiased reporting.
Yep. In the ensuing story, the Times spilled the guts of the entire Manhattan Project. They identified General Leslie Groves as the head.
And we got Leslie Groves. Give it up.
I'm assuming
the
Groves-
Saturday Night Live like that.
Leslie Groves.
Did he like
Richard Feynman?
I'm the goofy one.
I wonder if he liked that, because he was a pretty quiet guy.
No,
Wasn't
they
he?
wanted the credit, man.
They
He
wanted
did
the
2
credit.
years
Groves
of work.
wanted it?
They
Okay.
loved it. No.
So they were the ones giving all the info to the New York Times.
Well, I mean, they just had
Probably.
a statement ready to go.
Got you.
This was straight from this is from the government telling the New York Times, like, tell everybody in the fucking world what we just accomplished, because it's fucking awesome.
And we spent a fuck ton of money,
Yeah.
and we just killed 100,000 people.
Yeah.
I think there's a lot of it, because now it's
Yeah.
the rush of we must prove that we are still the good guys.
Yes, exactly.
But what is unique is we dropped a bomb and it was still like, we better get this to the printing press
Literally,
right now.
Right. The
It's
American PR machine kicked in.
But also, it's old tech meets the new world in real time.
Modern age begins.
Yes, true.
It's very strange how it did.
Yeah, they put Oppenheimer up as the hero, the brains behind the bomb. They revealed
Yeah, I did a lot, but I'm still sad about it.
Oh.
Where's my communist girlfriend?
It's okay, Oppenheimer.
Yeah, they revealed the cities of Hanford, Oak Ridge, Los Alamos, these locations that have been kept top secret.
Wow.
Like, they laid the entire thing out. However, the story was not a full blowjob.
This is back when reporters did things.
Yeah. And there were certainly quite a few Americans, both public and private, who saw the terror of the atomic bomb for what it was before even hearing about what really went down in Hiroshima. In the New York Times article, after they outlined the Trinity test, they asked whether the bomb might be either the salvation of mankind or the Frankenstein's monster of the world.
Was this like here where they're asked like Humphrey Bogart that? And he's just like, I only know about slapping women and smoking.
Yes. But did it not also lead to the Hot Pocket?
I believe the microwave.
Microwave, yeah.
Might be a different. You know what?
We don't know.
We don't know. We'll never know.
It sounds wrong, but I don't know enough about microwaves to dispute you.
That's the key.
Yeah.
Called the gray area of no.
Yes, indeed.
Just live in it. Love it.
Both of those things are true, though. Both of those.
Yeah, the Frankenstein's monster of the world. And
it's all real.
Because you remember part of this was all
the salvation of mankind, though.
Well, no, the scientists were saying, which is the truth, which is like we could have first used this as a nuclear reactor and have made free energy, and we could have like made energy that could have fed the world in a mass quantity if we wanted to.
We still will. We will end up doing that because I think people are going to realize electric is very difficult as well.
I hope we do it on the goddamn moon. Put nuclear reactors on the goddamn moon, and then you bring the energy cells back and forth like it's fucking what's the game that KB used to play?
StarCraft?
Yes.
Yeah.
Oh, that would be fun.
Yeah, that would be super fun. Yeah, because then we could just fill the moon with all the nuclear waste.
That easy. No, we take the nuclear waste and we shoot it away from the moon out into space.
I feel like that's going to backfire on us, though.
No way.
No way.
I've never seen countless movies and read countless books that have said about the same exact subject.
We got to put it in one of those black holes. They're saying there's a hum. And it's coming from two black holes.
No, think about it. We shoot into a black hole.
Yeah, perfect.
That's fun.
There's no way that's going to pop out somewhere else.
No, not at all.
But it has led truly to some peace.
No, it just led to proxy wars.
No, but Israel and Iran would have killed each other.
But proxy wars are peaceful because they're not wars.
Yeah, they're proxy wars.
Yeah.
Yeah. And we're not, and it's not, because that's the thing. It totally ended any and all land wars in Europe. We haven't had one of those since.
Proxy wars are essentially the vaping to the real wars of smoking cigarettes.
Yeah, basically.
It's all the same.
Yeah. But yeah, land wars in Europe, we don't have those anymore,
I would say the
right?
U.S. and Russia, Soviet Union, and the U.S. would have had a land war without the problem.
You think so?
Maybe.
Without a doubt.
And technically, would
What
have
else
probably
would we
been. Probably. I don't know.
Yeah.
That's when technically that's when you send in Guy Fieri.
Oh, he saves.
He's the one. He brings them. They don't have chicken and waffles.
Did you guys? Didn't Metallica say to secure peace you have to prepare for war?
That is what Metallica said.
That was about group therapy.
Oh my God.
That was about him and Lars.
I just wish that they were different people.
We know.
Now, even before Little Boy was dropped on Hiroshima, the military had decided, without President Truman's consent, that the Fat Man plutonium bomb would be dropped on another city if the Japanese didn't immediately respond with an unconditional surrender. The way the military saw it, they'd been handed a new weapon. And this new weapon is just like any other. Do I fucking call up the president when I want to drop another bomb? No, I don't. Why am I going to consult him on this?
Because it did. I was reading about this because I was talking about it with Eddie, and he was like, who ordered the second bombing? And I realized like there was just a caveat in his order to release the first bomb that like essentially if you don't immediately surrender, we're just going to keep doing it. And so everyone just went like, well, we got permission.
Right, so do it as many times as you want.
Yep.
Yeah. Now, in a lame attempt to prevent the loss of more innocent life, the U.S. War Office dropped millions of leaflets all over Japan telling them that America was in possession of the most destructive weapon ever devised by man and that they should take steps to cease military resistance.
So this is like an alcoholic father going out, but before he goes out, he'd be like, just so you know, you better be in bed before you get home. I'm coming home drunk as shit.
Yes. Okay. Honestly, I would appreciate it a couple of those.
Just a little heads up. I'm going to be really abusive tonight.
The problem with this, though, is that by Japanese law, citizens weren't allowed to read or discuss leaflets dropped from the sky, and they faced arrest, serious penalties, if they didn't immediately hand these leaflets over to local police. And so on August 8th, just 2 days after Hiroshima, the Fat Man bomb was fully assembled with its plutonium core and was thereafter loaded into a far less famous B-29 called Boxcar at around 10 p.m.
Now, I found a little article that was talking about the bombing of Nagasaki, and there was this little thing that felt like Dan Carlin-y in its like irony, and then how it portrays itself to the rest of American history, which was on the front of the Nagasaki bomb on Fat Boy. What they did was they wrote an acronym on it. So everybody signs the bomb. So when everybody puts it together, they all did like cheeky things.
Bomb,
so they wrote, like, here's to you, a second kiss for Hirohito, like weird, like cheeky. But on the nose, they had an acronym, JANKFU, which stood for Joint Army Navy Civilian Fuck Up, which was on the front of this thing.
Okay.
And it's interesting because it seems that that's kind of how we would treat the world from then on. Like this idea of we spread it around everywhere now. Don't worry, now this is like with this little thing, this Fat Boy thing, it's a symbol for our foreign policy from then on.
Yes, definitely the era of interventionalism has begun.
Don't you make us fuck you up.
Yeah. Well, at the very same time that Fat Man was being loaded into boxcars bomb bay, the Soviet Union, still an uneasy ally of America, they declared war on Japan and invaded the Japanese-controlled region of China known as Manchuria. The Soviets, however, had their own motives for invading, which came more into focus during the Korean War, but we're not going to get into that.
Let's just cover that. That's my grandfather's war. I also found out my American grandfather.
Yeah. The Korean War is extraordinarily complicated. I've been learning about it recently, and there's a lot of ins and outs on that.
Yeah, you'll love it. You'll like to do that research.
You'll like it.
But regardless of the future, Japan was well and truly fucked from all sides, and they knew it, although they were still dragging their feet towards surrender. But because they didn't hop to it, another one of their cities would fall victim to the atomic bomb. That was the city of Nagasaki. Now, one of the first things that we noticed upon starting research for this series was that while there are hundreds of resources concerning the bombing of Hiroshima, Nagasaki is treated almost as a footnote.
Yeah, it's like, and we did Nagasaki.
Yeah, it's like the second dream team.
Yeah, I remember. Yeah,
everyone remembers the 92 one. After that, everyone's like, we know.
Well, partly I think this is due to the fact that it's more of the same. Sloughing, swelling, scorching. But I also think it's a little more complicated than that, and the reasons are both Japanese and American. First of all, while the Nagasaki death toll is still incredibly high, the bombing itself was nowhere near as smooth and successful as the so-called perfect bombing of Hiroshima.
That's a big one. And that's like the American thing of we don't want anybody really see this kind of series of goof-em-ups that led to the Nagasaki bombing because, again, the Hiroshima bombing was like, these boys are doing their job and they nailed it. Everybody, they crushed it. Meanwhile, this one's like they had a lot of fuck-ups.
Yeah. It's like the curse of everyone that's done stand-up comedy for 30 years because the first set they really did well.
Oh, yeah.
And then the next 29 and a half years, it's just miserable.
One day I'll get back on that stage and I love it.
Now, Nagasaki wasn't the first choice for the second bomb. In fact, Nagasaki was the fourth choice, considered so lightly that in the list for potential targets for a second bomb, someone had written "and Nagasaki" in the margins the day before the nuclear strike was finalized.
That's how I was picked for the baseball team.
Oh, and Zabrowski.
Now, Nagasaki had already been bombed 5 times prior to August of 1945. It was bombed so often, in fact, that one student remembered that he'd been taught to plug his ears with his thumbs and cover his eyes with his fingers because a bomb's concussive force might burst his eardrums and pop his eyeballs out of his skull.
No trauma there at all.
Yeah.
No.
But because Nagasaki had already been bombed, it was not considered a high priority target for showing the bomb's full destructive force, because remember, that was the whole fucking point. Now, the people of Nagasaki, as well as the rest of Japan, they'd kind of sort of been told on August 8th what had happened in Hiroshima on August 7th. This announcement, however, was like none ever released by the Japanese government. While past releases might admit a defeat, those defeats were always soft-pedaled. There were still plenty of people in Japan at this point that thought that Japan was winning the war. With Hiroshima, though, the Japanese government admitted that, quote-unquote, considerable damage had been perpetrated by a new weapon, and considerable damage was far more than any admission the Japanese government had made up till this point.
It's always the people. It's always the people that suffer.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, yeah.
My God, just stop this.
Additionally, a well-respected figure in Nagasaki's medical establishment had passed through Hiroshima after the bombing on his way home from Tokyo. Immediately upon returning to Nagasaki, this man got on the radio and told everyone about the burned bodies, the fire, the flash, everything. And he also said, no air raid shelter is going to protect you from this. We need to leave. As a result, the local government ordered a meeting the next morning to discuss how they might be able to handle a citywide evacuation, because that's no small feat. You can't just snap your fingers and say, go. But tragically, while that meeting was being planned, Fat Man was already on its way.
Just huffing and puffing.
Honestly, if you're a restaurateur, you're really happy.
Yeah.
Why?
I was actually.
I mean, if a real fat man was coming to your
If a real
restaurant.
fat man was coming into your
When me,
restaurant.
Eddie, and Kissel roll up,
I
and
know
you're
it's about to be a
$300.
$300.
And you find out we'll have
That's
to
for sure.
eat light because we're forced to by a doctor now.
Yeah, that's
no,
true.
what's going on with all that?
Yep.
These doctors are ruining our
They
lives.
say we're fucking. They just sit there with their stethoscope on and fucking garbage. Well, whatever. You tell me what?
Shit. They shouldn't have put that mustache on it though.
On the
bomb,
On the bomb,
yeah.
yeah.
No.
In another tragedy.
Named it the Wilford Brimley. Wilford Bromley.
What?
Wilford Bromley.
Because it's got a big mustache.
And he's fat boy.
I don't know. I don't know.
Fat man.
The big fat man. Diabetes. You
Mr.
have a
Brim-
you have a
Wilford Brimley
you have a
just lived
t-shirt with
poorly.
him on him. On
No,
it.
yeah, but he just lived poorly. I don't want to call him fat.
He is a fat
What
man.
are you talking about?
Wilford
He was the
Brimley's
face of
absolute-
diabetes.
He was
We're not even
character
doing it
actor.
now. Oh, you know what? I'm getting into my Arnie zone.
Your-
Okay.
Your Arnie zone?
Yes, because
I'm
when Henry
mad about
says something,
Rhetoric.
so he is the face of diabetes. Wilford Brimley is notoriously fat. And I don't want to live in a world where you're going to try to say that he was not.
Yeah, and I'm gonna.
He
I'm
should
gonna
have never
be-
went to Nagasaki.
I'm with you on the Arnold thing, Henry, but I'm with Ben on the Wilford Brimley.
You know-
See,
thing.
this is why it works.
Right? It's triangle trust. It takes three.
Well, in another tragedy, because of inorganization within the Air Force, the leaflets informing the people of Nagasaki about the impending bomb, the leaflets fell with the bomb.
Yeah.
Oh my God.
Additionally,
Just so you know, this is what's happening to you.
yeah.
Hey, what's all this? Oh, shit.
no.
Wow.
Additionally, in the pre-bomb tragedy realm, 9 residents of Nagasaki who had survived the bombing of Hiroshima had actually made their
No,
way
no, no.
back to Nagasaki before the second bomb
It's,
fell.
you know, it's like as a sports fan, like, you know, the Knicks always lose and you wonder, is it me?
This is just like the next. This is
wow.
just like it.
One man in particular had dug through the ruins of his Hiroshima home to retrieve the bones of his wife, and he was walking through the streets of Nagasaki carrying his wife's
Oh, my
remains
fuck.
in a wash basin so he could give the remains to her parents when Fat Man detonated.
He's just trying to make people sad now.
It is sad.
That's what he's trying
I
to
mean,
do.
that's again, once in human history.
Yeah.
This
Yes.
story has happened.
Now, even though Fat Man was a more powerful bomb, Little Boy killed twice the number of people, and the destruction radius had been 3 times as large. This was because the hills surrounding Nagasaki absorbed the brunt of the bomb's blast, resulting in 40,000 instant deaths instead of 80,000. That was another reason why Nagasaki was a poor target. They knew that was going to happen.
And it had already been bombed a bunch.
Yeah.
And they'd already it was kind of all jacked up. And we'll also see there was also the actual physical problems.
Yeah, the entire operation had been troubled from the start. The original target had been the city of Kokura, which was a site of a massive Imperial Army arsenal. Bad weather and miscommunication, however, dogged the crew of Boxcar at every turn, as well as equipment fuck-ups. There was fuel pump problems.
Well, apparently I also heard that they got so used to air raids, but one thing that they would do, one defensive maneuver, is that the factories would pump out steam. And that they would do a cover. So they said when they got to Kokura, there was a cover, and there's kind of talk about whether or not it was weather or whether or not they literally had hid themselves.
Some of the guys who worked at the factory claimed that that's what they did.
I don't know.
Yeah,
But-
the government shouldn't have given the contract to make that plane to Ocean Gate.
Current.
Ocean Gate.
Current. Pun.
I don't understand.
It's-
This is why,
it's
Marcus, you are so
the
unbelievably in
submarine
history's
that-
asshole.
He's just
Do you not
saying
know anything about this? Is the strangest part where I do shine.
the submarine that
You don't know-
collapsed. He is equating the problems of the B-29 delivering boxcar, delivering it to the problems of the Ocean Gate
Oh, do you know what
submarine
the Ocean
that
Gate sub
currently
is?
had its fatal catastrophe.
It's called Titan.
OceanGate's the company. See, he's doing the thing like where I always could say anything's like a Coca-Cola.
Oh.
You know what I mean?
Ocean.
It's very
Ocean Gate.
Midwest.
I thought there was like a political scandal involving the ocean, and you were calling it Ocean Gate.
See, that would be interesting. That's a whole other episode series about the corruption in the sponge world.
Marcus, why don't you just give me the script? I'll take over from here.
Let him look at it.
Yeah, let me
him-
just give
I've
I'll
been
do the
meaning-
reading from
I've been
now on.
meaning to say this.
Well, Boxcar was on its way to the city of Kokura, but they had to land on the small island of Yakushima to wait for its observation plane. Call sign Big Stink.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, I got that big sticky plane. Oh, you need a
Right.
big sticky plane? That's what I got.
I mean, it
I
is.
rub shit on it.
Yeah, Big Stink. Yeah, that's
Yeah,
your plan, Big Stink.
He didn't like the name.
The pilot of Big Stink, however, was of a superior rank to Boxcar's pilot. So after getting indignant over an order that he didn't agree with, Big Stink just refused to show up.
So Big Stink made a big stink.
That's why we called you Big Stink.
Yeah,
Big Stink.
and you just
No, are you making a big stink again, Big Stink?
No.
Therefore, while Boxcar was waiting to take off, bad weather closed in over Kokura, and Boxcar burned a lot of fuel circling the city, waiting for a window in the clouds. Additionally, Japanese fighter planes were climbing towards Boxcar, and anti-aircraft fire from the ground was getting heavy, so it was on to the next target, Nagasaki. And Nagasaki, of course, remember it was fourth on the list. Nagasaki was where they could get to with as much, because they had to do calculation. We have to have enough fuel to get to Nagasaki, and then from Nagasaki back to base.
They said they had the bomber's journal, and he wrote on things being like closing in on 2 hours of fuel. I wonder if the Pacific will be cold.
Yeah. These guys did
Wow.
not think they were going to make it
No.
back.
They need Sully Sullenberger up there.
They really did.
Nagasaki, however, was also covered in clouds. But Boxcar didn't have enough fuel to return to base with a 9,000-pound bomb aboard. They had to drop it somewhere.
It's also human, isn't it?
With the fat man was safer to drop wild than the little boy was.
Yeah.
So they had a plan to ditch the fat man,
Okay.
which is literally drop it in the fucking ocean.
Yeah. But just as the pilot decided to just drop Fat Man via radar on Nagasaki, come what may, the clouds broke and Bombardier Captain Kermit Behan let her rip.
Names used to be names.
They really did. Kermit, old Kirby there.
Kermit Behan.
You know, Teddy Roosevelt had a son named Kermit. He got killed in World War I.
Isn't that something?
Yep.
Yeah, and Teddy was very happy about that.
He got
Teddy
set
was,
on fire because he was completely made of felt.
Oh, isn't that too bad?
Teddy was extraordinarily broken over the death of his son
And he was
Kermit.
like, oh, oh,
Yeah.
oh. A very high voice.
Yeah, he's never going to marry that pig woman now. It's up to me to have sex with her. That's what I would do if I ever had a kid that died young. And I'd be like,
No, your wife, I don't know.
nah, it's up to me to have sex with her.
It's me, the Benola Gay, and if you remember me, I saved the war. Now you're my wife. You should be my daughter.
In-law.
Well, the Boxcar crew were 3/4 of a mile off target, and that actually saved tens of thousands of lives. But again, 40,000 died in an instant, and a lot of the same shit that happened in Hiroshima happened in Nagasaki, just not quite as bad.
But they're horrible.
Horrible, yeah.
If,
Horrible.
like, if the big boy there was the only bomb dropped, people would think
We
it was
would be
horrible.
doing what we just did for Hiroshima. We
Yeah.
would be doing that.
Yeah, but Boxcar made it back to Tinian. They landed with less than a minute's worth of fuel. Like, if they would have been up there for a
Jesus.
minute longer, they would have crashed.
Well, man, that reminds me of Crash Bandicoot.
Yeah,
But
does it?
Yeah, it's very time-based.
Oh,
Those
yeah.
time-based games are stressful.
No, they are very. I hate time-based games.
Yeah. But Boxcar, when they landed, they found absolutely no fanfare.
What?
As opposed to the hero's welcome experienced by the crew of the Enola Gay.
Basically, the news of the Hiroshima bombing made the whole world we celebrated, but immediately the whole world was like,
Yeah,
exactly.
Like, what?
Fuck.
And so it was at first, we couldn't party too hard because now we have to show the unbearable responsibility of these weapons.
Well-
But it took a day for that to change.
Right.
Yeah.
But now they're like, when they showed up, immediately it was just like, okay, well, great, good work, guys. Let's get back. But because Truman was not happy that when he found out I guess from the news.
It really is a pretty big operation not to tell the president about.
I mean, it was a half-assed job. That might partly be the reason why America doesn't talk about it a lot. And it's an embarrassment because President Truman did not order this, nor was he even aware of the bombing until after it happened. It was at this point that we put in the rule that says presidents have to authorize nuclear strikes.
And isn't that funny now how the presidents just go to war without Congress?
They can. We figured that out, yeah.
Yeah, they chose to.
They really they figured that out, yeah.
But even so, preparations were being taken on the island of Tinian for more nuclear strikes.
Yep.
And the scientists at Los Alamos were hard at work producing another plutonium bomb that would be done by the end of August. In fact, it's believed that the only reason why Japan escaped a third atomic bomb was because we'd already dropped all the bombs we had.
Yeah, we dropped the full finished ones.
Yeah, we dropped the full finished ones. Even more ghoulish was the gung-ho spirit of Paul Tibbets, who had been the pilot that dropped the bomb on Hiroshima. He had volunteered to drop the next bomb.
Let me do it!
And the next.
He wants another medal.
And the next. He was prepared to drop as many bombs on Japan as it took to get them to surrender.
There might be a couple of different nuances when he speaks that aren't currently allowed.
Yeah,
I could see him being kind of bleeped or just like,
Oh, yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. Now, dropping a bunch of bombs on Japan was certainly a possibility, because while Los Alamos was going to take until the end of August for a third bomb, Fat Men 4 through 6 would be done by September. And by
that's Fat Men.
Yeah, that's what I said. Fat Men.
Fat Men.
Fat Men 4 through 6. I guess it would be Fat Man 4 through 6.
Fat Man 4 through 6.
Yeah.
I would say that.
Yeah, because
yes.
you don't say like Die Hards 4 and 5.
Unless you're my mother.
Yeah, you do.
No.
Yeah, Die Hard's 4 and 5.
No, you say Die Hard 4 and 5.
It depends on how you want to go.
You say
you either do proper English or you don't.
Yeah.
No, it depends. If you're saying Die Hard's fourth film had better boobs than Die Hard 1.
Everyone is just pulling their cars into oncoming traffic. Everybody is just slamming their laptop shut. They're deleting the podcast.
I would
say hours of work, years of doing a show.
You would say the Die Hard's franchise.
Rob has just moved from New York to Los Angeles to edit this episode.
Yes, indeed.
But perhaps a bigger reason why neither America nor Japan is eager to discuss the bombing of Nagasaki is because while Hiroshima was entirely unnecessary, Nagasaki was even more so.
Yeah, it is definitely how do I say this? I can put myself in history shoes and think about Hiroshima and kind of vaguely understand the whys and the hows and how we got to this place. But Nagasaki is the thing of like, this is where we entered into, now we're a bully. Now we are, we're just doing this to set the tone for the next war.
Yeah, it was done with all of the gravitas of fuck it, let's do it again.
And that's the thing, it just went right out it was very corporate almost. It just went out the door.
Yeah. Just as the Fat Man bomb was falling on Nagasaki, Japan's Supreme Council for the direction of the war, the so-called Big Six, they were arguing over the best way to surrender. In fact, the decision to seek peace had been made 6 weeks before Hiroshima.
Oh, man.
But the Big Six couldn't agree on conditions. But really, the biggest tragedy here was that it wasn't necessarily the atomic bombs that made the Japanese surrender. Or at least it wasn't the biggest reason. Now, not every historian agrees on this theory, but I do. It's thought by some that it was fear of a full Soviet invasion on the Japanese mainland and the eventual communist rule that drove the Japanese into the arms of the Americans. Truly, it was the Soviet Union invading that really popped them out of their fucking dream. That means that Nagasaki had no effect whatsoever on Japan's decision to surrender, and we rained hellfire on tens of thousands of people for no reason at all.
I mean, it does just show you how unlikable the Russians are. Because they were like, yeah, these guys bombed us twice, but if
at
you
least
try
they got
cheesecake.
they're going to invent video games.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like,
cool.
we're
Actually,
gonna,
I think the
Japanese will really
invented the video
perfect it.
games.
You know what I mean?
No,
Like,
the Russians
we'll buy it.
We'll buy it. Yeah, Tetris was it, but that was Tetris.
They literally were like, they have Elvis Presley. You know what I mean? Like, they're like fun over there. You know?
But either way, when the Japanese came with surrender terms, Secretary of War Henry Stimson agreed to leave the emperor on the throne just long enough for him to order the surrender of the Japanese armies, because Stimson knew that Emperor Hirohito was going to be the only guy that those armies listened to. Stimson's reasoning was that it was in America's best interest to plant our flag on the Japanese homeland as soon as we could. We had to get there before the Soviets even came close because we wanted to avoid another power-sharing situation like we had in Germany. And that's if we didn't lose Japan to the Soviets completely.
And then also, we got the atomic bomb, and we're in your backyard.
Yes.
Now we're here.
We're here, yes. And so, on August 15th, 1945, Japan accepted the Potsdam Declaration. Emperor Hirohito broadcasted an address telling the people of Japan and his armies to stand down because, quote, the war situation has developed not necessarily to Japan's advantage.
He's still a politician at the end of the day.
Just
Not necessarily.
I had a dream that maybe we might want to think about stopping this.
Maybe.
A little over 2 weeks later, Emperor Hirohito signed the document surrendering to America, and on September 2nd, 1945, World War II officially ended.
Yay!
That, however, is not where our story ends.
Ooh.
No,
It's
good.
Yay.
For we shall return next week for the conclusion to our series on the Manhattan Project, with the long-term effects of radiation poisoning, the moment in which atomic power becomes an object of fear for America rather than an object of wonder, and the eventual fate of J. Robert Oppenheimer.
My girlfriend!
Oh, they'll cover it in the movie.
My girlfriend!
Awesome. Well, thank you all so much for listening. Let's see. Do we have anything we want to announce?
We have many things we
got
do.
this. Can we talk about San Diego?
Not San Diego,
No?
but we can
Okay.
talk about the live streaming show that we are doing November 4th here in Los Angeles at the Palace. We are finally ending our Mamma Mia, Here We Go Again tour. We're doing it in Los Angeles one last time.
Going again for the last time.
We're going again for the last time. We're giving a live stream, just so you know. That doesn't mean some people were like, did you mean final show? No, we were going to go on tour next year.
There's
We'd
no
like to tour.
final. We'll be dead.
We're gonna
That'll be our
we're gonna
final
die
show.
on stage.
Yeah.
That's how we live our life. But know that we're gonna do a live stream, and then also remember for the shows that we're postponing in Australia and New Zealand to the 2024 dates, we're giving you guys a free show this year. But we're gonna figure out all that coordinating over the next couple weeks. You're gonna receive an email from us.
It will be a stream show, not a free show in Australia.
No, it'll be a
And it'll be
stream
more of
show.
I would say it's more of a program than a show.
It's
It's a program.
program.
And there'll be show aspects, but I am excited for this. I think that will be. You guys gonna get that? And we've got Henry Zabrowski, me, at Dad's Garage in Atlanta.
There you
July
go.
7th and 8th. I'm going to be enjoying myself, making improv. You got to see me there. And then we got Kissel.
Yeah, I'm doing a bunch of blabbing, so you guys can come out to San Diego on 7/9. That's July 9th. San Francisco, July 16th. Las Vegas, July 23rd. And Ontario, California, July 30th. So it'll be fun.
No,
Yeah.
I'm excited
And
for you.
the theme for all of that is sloughing.
yeah.
So feel free to come with your skin slightly hanging off.
And he will be
your
doing
body.
his new Kissel Nacht hour, which will mostly involve, I'm very honestly, I'm scared.
Yeah, well, I'm horrified. All right. That's it.
That's all.
Thank you all so much for supporting all the shows here. Thanks for listening to our serious shows and calling in. You all are wonderful. Hail yourselves.
Hail Satan.
Hell, Gain. And don't forget to watch our stream every Tuesday.
Yeah.
Last stream on the left. Become a Patreon supporter, and you get to watch it live and see all of the stuff that gets cut out for the YouTube stream because I showed a lot of stuff this week that is definitely going to get cut out.
It immediately
I don't
got
know
cut
if
out,
it
yeah.
will, but
Now, the testicles definitely aren't
the
going on
testicles
YouTube.
will
The
be cut out.
testicles
Yes,
can't-
even
Yeah.
though that's medical.
But no,
YouTube
it's YouTube's Puritan.
Yeah. Also, use the information in this series for your July 4th barbecue.
Oh, yeah.
And have
Make
fun
sure-
with it.
Mention this a lot, especially if you're going to a barbecue
With
with a lot
old
of
people.
conservative old people. Like
Yeah.
if you've got a great grandpa, definitely make sure to talk to him about how Hiroshima was not necessary.
Yeah, I think
Well,
they'll-
why don't you just not frame it in a way where
Frame it in a way where he feels bad.
Yeah,
At the
yeah,
end
yeah.
of his
No,
life,
no, they're
frame it
old.
in a way
No,
where
no,
he feels like his entire life was a lie and that
Yeah, it's
everything
kinda
he was
fun.
thought that he
Shake
thought
him
was
up. Old
true
people
about
spite.
America
It's the
is
spite.
true.
Sometimes you get a fifth adolescence in your 90s.
Yeah, you do.
And also, what a great wrap up to Pride Month.
All
thank
right.
you so
Hail
much for that.
yourselves, everyone.
Hail Satan.
Okay.
Magustalations.
Me.
Bye.
This show is made possible by listeners like you. Thanks to our ad sponsors, you can support our shows by supporting them. For more shows like the one you just listened to, go to lastpodcastnetwork.com.